Today, we're going to be taking a look at some of the best endings in FNAF fan game history. From emotional conclusions to shocking twists and finales that completely recontextualize everything that came before them, these games know how to stick the landing. Some of these endings are so memorable that they're the first thing people think of when the game is mentioned, so let's dive into them. Unknown FNAF fan games. Five Nights at Freddy's games that not many people have heard about. Obviously, there are plenty of these. This series has been around for almost 12 years, and the fan game community hasn't slowed down one bit on new releases. I personally love looking at random FNAF fan games in my personal time and finding unpopular ones that might be hidden gems. And a few months ago, I received an email from a dev with an early build of their game. I played it and thought it looked interesting, and recently I found out the full version was released. This game in question is called Jackie's Forest, a very interesting FNAF game to say the least, and that's all I'm going to say about it here. Stick around because I have my fair share of things to say about this specimen of a project, so let's waste no more time and dive into the world of Jackie's Forest. Alright, where should we start? If you said anything except night one to that question, then I hate to break it to you, you might be just a little bit brain dead, but that's okay. I'm here to help you through this process, so we're going to be starting with night one. Something I really like about Jackie's Forest is that while the night sections are usually incredibly easy, each of them are completely different. So there's going to be something new to do each night, so developing a strategy is pretty much impossible. Let's move on to talking about night one, the threats we have to deal with it inside, and of course, the tools at our disposal. Personally, my favorite part of these videos is talking about the tools at our disposal, and that's funny because I'm straight up lying to you, cuh. Anyways, in the first night section, we're actually in the office. Surprisingly, we actually don't have any cameras, which I'm gonna be honest, kind of makes this entire section really boring. But please, don't click off the video. I promise this game is interesting. I wouldn't be talking about it if it wasn't. On the computer in front of us, we're able to look through our files and access a sound system that goes around the entire building. I'm willing to bet you're able to figure out what that means, but if not, allow me to explain it to you. Before I can explain it to you, however, I do need to talk about the first threat that this night introduces, Maurice. And no, not the cool guy from Madagascar. Unfortunately, it's just a disgusting fucking pig-ass, fuck-ass skunk. This motherfucker right here really likes the sound of children. So while most people dress up as monsters for Halloween, Maurice has been dressing up as Jared Fogle. So I guess he also dressed up as a monster, but it's like a little bit different because, like, you know what, it doesn't matter. Maurice will slowly make his way to your office. Shining your flashlight on the door in front of you when he gets close will reveal his rapist homo thug black boy face.
Don't be filming me, brother. You got your rapist homo thug black boys over there.
What the hell are you talking about?
All you have to do when you see him is play a sound from another room in your control panel to lure him away. However, this is where I have to talk about a truly disturbing and butthole-ripping mechanic this character has. Do you guys remember the dreaded 1 in 7 from FNAF 3 with Springtrap? Yeah? That mechanic that gives Springtrap a 1 in 7 chance to just ignore the audio lure? Yeah, well, Maurice has that too, except this time around, instead of 1 in 7, it's borderline 1 in 2, because this motherfucker does not move a goddamn inch, and I'm sick of it. The dev really thought, I know how I can make this character work. How about I make his entire mechanic just spamming a button until the player flips heads on a coin flip? Fuck him. But whatever. Once you eventually get lucky enough, Maurice will be dragged away. However, as I'm sure you could have guessed, that is not the only character active on this night, because if it was, this would easily be one of the most piss-poor sections from any FNAF game I've ever covered on this channel. So, who's the other little gooner we have to deal with tonight? Well, that would be Jackie, the character from the title of the game. You know, I always thought it would be pretty funny to make a FNAF game called Five Nights at whatever the fuck the name I choose is, and then never add a character with that name. Like, imagine Five Nights at Ronald's, but there's never a character named Ronald in the game. I don't know, maybe my sense of humor is just retarded, but I think that would be really funny. Anyway. Anyways, moving on to what Jackie actually does. Jackie's goal is to attack you via the window on your left. You can flash your flashlight to that window to check if Jackie is there. However, Jackie will also just make a fuck ton of noise whenever she moves. Once Jackie gets too close for comfort, all you have to do is turn the power to your office off until you hear her leave. And then you're Bing chilling, which is a quote from Martin Luther King, I'm pretty sure. But one last thing to talk about is the fact that this night is not time-based and is instead task-based. So you know what that means? No actual tasks have to be done. You really just have to click a button and wait for a loading bar to fill up and then click another button. So it's really just fucking time-based with a task-based blanket tossed over it. But once you finish the waiting simulator, night 1 will come to a close. But instead of just moving on to night 2, we instead get to talk about a post-night minigame because this game has those too. And trust me, the thought of doing a post-night minigame definitely does not make me want to put a hamster in a sock and start whipping it around like a mace. In this minigame, we need to help a squirrel pack food for a picnic. Seems pretty simple, and simple it is. Our first options for food are a piece of cheese or a fucking boot. Let's think about that, you stupid retarded ass squirrel. Have you ever eaten a boot? No, those go on your fucking feet. Next, she asks us what we can eat with the cheese, and our options are crackers or a fucking broken CD. Dumb bitch, why the fuck? Dumb bitch, why the fuck do you even have a CD that's broken? What could possibly be the point of keeping something like that in your house, hoarder? Throw it away, trailer trash. Next up, we've got to add some fruit. So she asks us what kind of apple we'd like to bring to the picnic. Except instead of the options being Honeycrisp, Granny Smith, Gala, or whatever the fuck, the options are apple or apple core. Jesus Christ, bimbo bitch. An apple core? That was on your list of things to possibly bring? You're wasting my time asking me these dumbass questions. For fuck's sake, what's the next question? Let's just fucking get this over with. Next, we have to bring some dessert, and our options are chocolate or a fucking battery. I bet these bitches aren't even charged either. Just some dead ass batteries for us to shove up our ass. No, we're not eating batteries. Are you a baby? A stupid drooling baby? These questions are so simple, for God's sake. Next up, we get to choose a drink. And the options are an orange juice box or unlabeled broken ass bottle with who the fuck knows what in it. I'm just done, guys. This is making my head hurt. No fucking shit, we're gonna take the juice, you dumb bitch! I swear to God, intelligence is chasing this squirrel, but she's just so much faster. Hopefully, she doesn't ask another retarded question because just like Kanye, I don't like retarded questions.
What? Please, next question. Please don't ask me any retarded questions.
Now, where should we pour our drink?
Are we serious right now? Are we actually so dead ass in this moment? Why the fuck would we pour the orange juice into some fuck ass rusty can with sepsis on it or some shit? And why would we pour it into the normal looking mug anyways? It was already in a fucking box with a straw. Guys, Sandy Cheeks has gotten a big downgrade. I hate this squirrel. But we have one last question. Please, don't be something stupid.
Now the most important part. What is the core of all life forms?
Oh. A computer chip or a pulsating brain. I don't really know why the brain is pulsating. They don't really do that. It's not a heart, but I guess I'll be picking that one. Cool. Anyways, then we go to the door to see our friends, but before we can leave, she says this.
Oh, silly me. How could I forget? We're never getting out of here.
So we're never allowed to leave the house. I'm stuck with this brain-dead rodent for the rest of time. Aye, gang, time to blow my shit clean off. But snapping back to reality, we do see a strange figure in the window. Not sure who that could be, but I'm going to take a guess it's probably this game's antagonist. With the minigame out of the way, we're safe to move on to night 2. With night 2 coming along, we appear to be in a new location. This time around being the maintenance room. Immediately, you'll notice your mother sitting on the table in front of us. Thank God that thing is made out of the incredibly strong material it is, because if it wasn't, you know damn well that bitch would have snapped in the middle like a twig. Anyways, we'll start talking about her in a second. To start, the way we complete this section is just by shredding a bunch of paper using the shredder in front of us. It's literally just another click and wait task-based mechanic, so really just a waiting game. You'll see in the top corner that we have 10 pages to shred. There are 2 characters attacking us this night, just like previously. However, before we talk about them, I want to talk about the fact that your shredder can jam. And if it does, all you have to do is slap it like I do to my kids when they talk a little bit too loud, and it'll go back to working as usual. Next, we have the wall behind us, which has a thermostat on it. Throughout the night, there will be several instances where you will need to change the temperature. Why do we have to do this? I have no fucking idea. Just accept it and do it, you little piglet. If you don't keep the temperature in the right spot, then you'll either die of a heat stroke or get hypothermia and die. Either way, you're dead, so just keep it at a crisp digit. Now we can move on to talking about the characters we have to deal with on this night. And of course, we'll talk about the beastly woman that is your mother first. What she does is incredibly simple. Occasionally, she'll look up at you like she thinks you're the waiter at the restaurant bringing her slop over. All you have to do is stare at her until she snaps out of it, and then you can continue doing what you were doing. Notice how your mom doesn't get up off the table either? That's probably because it's incredibly difficult for her to lift her cankles up. First world problems, am I right? The only other threat on this night is Maurice. Maurice will try to sneak up on you through the door in front of you. Apparently, we're not allowed to just keep the fucking door closed, so we'll have to hold it closed ourselves. Maurice is very quiet, so you'll have to check the door constantly to listen for him. If you hear him there, just hold the door closed and eventually he'll leave and you can go back to doing what you were doing. After shredding all 10 pieces of paper, night 2 will be completed and we can move on to the next post-night minigame, which hopefully this time will not make me want to nya paka and then do something with a train. My Russian homies know what I'm talking about. Come on, high five, hands up. Yeah, come here, bring it in right now. Come close. No. Okay, that's fine. That's okay. All right, so this minigame is just nearly as infuriating as the last one is, but I'm going to try to hold my tongue for as long as I can. In this minigame, we have to help the skunk that looks like a wolf set up a tent. So of course, the first step to setting up a tent is picking the biggest bag of marshmallows we see. Literally, what the fuck is this? You don't need marshmallows to set up a tent, you dirty slut. After picking the biggest bag of marshmallows for the skunk and his fat fuck friends, miraculously, the poles for the tent appear. And I'll be honest, I'm not a big camper myself, but I'm pretty confident that that is not what the poles of a tent look like. Next, we have to pick out enough sleeping bags for everyone that will be sleeping in the tent. All right, yes, that makes sense. Finally, something here that doesn't piss me off. And when we select the correct number, somehow the tarp is placed over the tent instead of the sleeping bags appearing. Fantastic. This makes so much sense and totally isn't about to make a blood vessel in my eye explode. Next, we need to pick a super long rope. Now, at first, I thought we would use these ropes to connect the stakes that we're going to put in the ground. But instead of that, after selecting the longest rope, we just put the stakes in the ground and just punch that rope into the fucking woods or something, because as you can see, they're nowhere to be found. After we finish the tent, all we have to do is wait for the other people to arrive. Except while we're doing that, it appears that Maurice is hit by a fucking semi or something. I have no idea. That's what it sounds like, but we don't really see anything happen. Just this disgusting render of him staring at us. But with that, we can move on to night 3. On night 3, we're stationed backstage. Once again, we do have 2 threats to deal with throughout this section, and a task-based minigame that's just clicking and waiting once again. So let's talk about that first. We're tasked this night with deleting show stage sequences from, I'm assuming, the robot's AI? I'm not really sure, but luckily for us, what we're doing doesn't actually matter all too much. We do, however, have a fuck ton of them to delete, so this night will likely be the longest we've done so far. Anyways, on to the threats on this night. Once again, we have your mother, so let's talk about her. She will just try to walk up on you because she heard you have meat in your pants. Gross. Not the type of meat we're talking about, you fucking buffoon. Once you see her, all you have to do is open up your panel and activate her sound sequence and it'll make her go away. Fun fact, the sound that actually lures her away is just the Burger King jingle, which really goes to show how down bad your mother is for food. She's eating Burger King? I didn't even think she would stoop that low. Yet, here we are. The other character active on this night is Jackie. You'll be able to see her on stage, which we are directly behind. Occasionally, she will leave this stage, which means in a few seconds, she will approach you. When she does, all you have to do is hold your light on her and she'll start shaking like the cashier at Wendy's when I hold him at gunpoint. And then she'll go back to the stage. But that's really it. While this night is probably the longest so far, I do feel it's probably one of the most underwhelming. But then again, if I'm being honest, the gameplay in this game as a whole is pretty underwhelming. Anyways, let's move on to the next post-night minigame. Just kidding, fuckhead. There is no post-night minigame this time around. Instead, we're just booted to night 4 because we're not allowed to have any fun apparently. So, on night 4, we set up shop in the playroom. Why? Well, apparently we were chased in here by animatronics or something. I'm not really sure why we're here because we're never explicitly told, but we can work with it. Phone Guy tells us that he'll try to work on activating the speakers to get the characters to fuck off for long enough for us to escape. But in the meantime, we'll have to defend ourselves from 3 characters instead of just 2, except it really is still pretty much just 2, but I'll explain why in a second. Let's start by talking about Jackie, since she can't seem to leave our nuts alone. Bars. She will attempt to attack us from the playhouse door. When we see her, all we have to do is close the door and she won't be able to see us. You'll also notice that unlike the door from night 2, this door doesn't have to be held closed and can actually be toggled. So what's stopping us from just holding the door closed the entire night? Well, that would be because of your fat fuck mother. That's why. She's programmed to play hide and seek. And while the phone guy says it's to play it with the children, I personally happen to know that it's really because she plays hide and seek with the waitresses and tries to hunt down the food they're carrying out to the tables before they can get it to the customers. I'm no idiot. So yeah, all you have to do to avoid her is just not keep the door closed for too long. So she really doesn't have a mechanic. She's just a consequence to abusing another mechanic. So for that reason, I'm saying she really doesn't count as a character on this night. Who does count as a character is the actual other threat on this night. The skunk Dick. He will try to attack you through the playhouse window. During this night, you're equipped with 15 balls. Why? Because he's a dick, that's why. Whenever you see Maurice appear outside of your window, just throw one of the balls in his direction and that'll distract him for a while. We obviously can't spam these balls since we only have 15 of them, but if we need to, I'm willing to BME Pain Olympics myself to get 2 more. But with that, that's really all we have to do. No task this time since we're surviving, so it's a pretty typical sit and survive kind of night. But with that, this night will come to a close and we can move on to the next post-night minigame. In this minigame, we have to help your fat shit mom bake a cake. She says it's because she invited her friends over for a sleepover, but we all know your mom ate her friends because she was hungry. So she's really just baking this cake for herself, fat ass. To start, we need to grab the butter. Thankfully, it appears this time that there's nothing fucking stupid to piss me off. The only thing that really does so far is the fact that the egg, for some reason, has way more white than yolk. Like, way more than usual. That does not look natural at all. Somebody has got to check the chicken that shot that fucking thing out of its dick. Eggs come out of the dick, right? Next up, we gotta add sugar and mix that shit up like I do with all of the babies in the nursery while the nurses aren't looking. Next, we add the fuck-ass egg and the vanilla extract that smells way better than it tastes. Finally, we mix it again, add in the flour and the milk, and mix it one last time. I've made a few cakes in my time, and I'm pretty confident that we used these ingredients out of order, but fuck it, I don't really care. And while the cake is being baked, we're asked if we can find the TV remote since they're all going to want to watch something. And while I'm sure you can tell by looking at your screen where the remote is, what is much more interesting to do is slowly looking to our right, where we will begin to hear the sound of a dog scratching at the door. Click on the door, and we see this.
Are you lost, little one?
I'm looking for my dog.
A little white one?
Yes. Have you seen him?
Yes. He's here with me. He misses you a lot. I was looking for his owner.
Can I please see him?
Of course. Come with me.
So, this dude in a rabbit mask 100% stabbed the shit out that kid, right? It's not just me thinking that? Okay, good. Just gotta make sure we're all on the same page because, and again, I'm no FNAF expert or anything, but I'm pretty confident he killed the shit out that kid. Anyways, with that, the minigame ends and we can move on to night 5. Night 5 takes place in the boiler room, and this night is something else. Let's just say that. And by something else, I mean by far the most anxiety-inducing night so far. Why? Not because of how hard it is, because it really isn't that hard at all, but instead because of how long it takes to make the 2 threats go away. Let's talk about it. The first threat on this night is once again, for like the millionth time, your fat as fuck bouncy ball looking ass mother. She probably heard that it was called the boiler room and assumed that meant that's where they boil the water for all the pasta she's forcing down her throat. That pig bitch. Literal pig bitch. When she approaches you from behind, all you have to do is hold the gate closed until she leaves. The other character, Maurice, is who makes my nerves ache like they're exposed and somebody clapped as hard as they could with them in between them. When he appears around from the corner looking at you all seductive like, all you have to do is turn to the massive valves in front of you and turn the smallest one at the bottom right. This will cause a whistling sound to play, which is supposed to scare him away. Except, here's the funny part. Do you remember how during night 1, he had a very large chance to just not fucking listen to the sound cues at all? Yeah? Well, he does that here as well. Isn't that just so fucking awesome? Hell yeah, it is. We love that. This is why this section is so nerve-wracking, because this dude just doesn't ever leave. I love it. Anyways, on to what we actually have to do to complete this section. It's pretty simple. The phone guy will slowly read off different pipe colors in a specific order, and we'll have to turn the corresponding pipes in the boiler room in the correct order to complete the night. Very easy, but not so when the fucking skunk won't hop up off me. Once we get close to turning all the valves, you'll notice that if you turn around, the stupid squirrel will be present instead of your mom. Very weird, since as far as we were aware, she wasn't supposed to be showing up at this time, so why is she here? After finishing all of the valves, the building shakes. Turning around, we'll see the gate is open and the squirrel is gone. And soon after that, the building shakes again and we black out and the credits roll.
Closed down restaurant is burned to the ground by boiler failure. Last night, the restaurant, Jackie's Forest, is burned down to the ground due to an explosion caused by a lack of maintenance of the boilers. The building had been abandoned on January of this year, and it was rumored that the explosion was caused by a lack of proper maintenance from the workers when leaving the building. One casualty was reported, as only one body was found in the remains of the building, crushed by rubble and burned to a crisp. It is theorized that this may have been a burglar or homeless person, as the building wasn't operating and didn't have any workers in it. The 4 animatronic performers the restaurant was known for were found in unusable conditions and will be relocated to a storage facility owned by the company.
And that nets us this game's bad ending. Now I know what you're thinking, and trust me, I'm thinking the same thing. How the fuck do we get a good ending in this game? And please, dear God, tell me it's not that I have to collect a random item in each night. Well, thankfully, no, we don't have to do that. Instead, during the boiler room night, if you just completely fucking ignore what the phone guy says and spam the shit out of all the valves, for some reason, the whole building shakes and we get teleported to a room with an elevator. Entering the elevator, we get the following cutscene.
Eddie, I told you to stay in the boiler room. What are you doing? You're in grave danger. You, can't leave the boiler room, much less go into the elevator while the building is falling apart. You have to turn around and leave now. I don't think you're listening to me. I said turn around. Go back to the boiler room. You are not supposed to be in the storage. Not only is it unsafe, but there is confidential stuff down there. You have to leave now.
Ignoring the fact that voice acting was completely awful, I do find it kind of odd how the phone guy really wanted us to turn back, and why he didn't want us to go to the storage room. But with that, we exit the elevator and do exactly what he told us not to, enter the storage room, which actually acts as this game's 6th night. So, here we are in the storage room, by far the most interesting night in this entire game, mainly because there's more than 2 things for us to do. This night integrates every single character we've seen so far, alongside a completely new threat. Let's quickly go over the tools at our disposal first. To start, this is the first night in the game with actual cameras. However, you want to hear something really funny? They're completely useless. So the only thing I'm going to say about them is that the character renders in these cameras are actually pretty creepy for what it's worth. So, let's start going down the list of characters on this night and exactly what they do. We'll start with Jackie. Her whole goal is to attack your right door. You won't be able to see her there unless you flash your light in the doorway. If she's there, simply close the door until she leaves. simple sugar. Maurice is much the same, except he attacks your left door, and instead of closing the door, you'll have to wear a mask you somehow pulled out of your ass, since as you can clearly see, the lever to the door is fucking shattered. The next character to talk about is your pig bitch of a mother. She will try to attack the giant hallway in front of you. When you see her there, all you have to do is pull down the massive gate and she won't be able to get in. As you can probably tell, just because there's more characters in this night in no way means that this game gets any bit harder than it has been. But finally, we can talk about the brand new character on this night. I don't know its name because we're not told, but I'm just gonna call it the Prototype, since I bet that's how uncreative its actual name is. Hey, recording Dxtr here. I went into the custom night. Its name is Nulls, so yeah, just keep that in mind. I'm gonna keep reading it as Prototype since that's how I wrote it, and I'm lazy, but just know it's Nulls. The Prototype has two ways to attack you, your left door and the hallway in front of you. For both instances of attack, all you have to do is put your mask on and it'll go away. This night is really fucking boring, guys, I can't lie. But with that, just survive until 6 a.m., which is much shorter than most FNAF games, and we get a new newspaper clipping.
Engineer arrested after evidence is released by fire survivor in Jackie's Forest restaurant. Last night, the restaurant Jackie's Forest burned down to the ground after an explosion caused by boiler failure. The failure was caused by Eddie Garcia, a worker who was misinstructed by Harvey Turner, the engineer of the restaurant, who is being charged with attempted murder and obstruction of justice after it was revealed by Garcia that Turner had sent him to destroy incriminating evidence from the building. Garcia was able to survive and escape the fire and is being sentenced to home arrest for complicity, while Turner will be kept in custody while the case is investigated. Some evidence links him to 2 local cases, but nothing is confirmed yet. The restaurant had closed in January of this year, rumored to be because of the Maddie Denton case, a 7-year-old girl who went missing in the restaurant on September of last year.
And with that, we get the good ending. As far as I'm aware, no more lore as to what the fuck is going on with the weird dude or the dead dog or the dead kid, so I'm just gonna leave it and pretend like it doesn't exist. I mean, I guess if you want to analyze it quickly from that newspaper clipping, it's kind of hinted that Turner, or the phone guy, is the one that killed the girl and the dog or something. I don't fucking know. But with that, that's all Jackie's Forest has to offer. Like I said, I was actually sent a demo of this game a few months ago by the devs, which only had the first 2 nights. And I remember thinking that this game could do something pretty cool if they polished it up a bit. And while from the demo I got, the game has definitely gotten a small upgrade, I figured I should give it a white video the moment I saw the full version was released. Overall, Jackie's Forest tries to do a lot of things, but I personally think it falls short in all of them. I don't think it does a very good job at telling its story, considering I was literally able to piece together pretty much none of it. I know there's at least 1 dead kid and a dog and some weird stranger guy that probably killed some kids, but who is he? What does the Prototype thing have to do with anything? And who are any of the characters besides our own and the phone guy? That's just completely unknown to me. And on top of that, while each night is unique and I do really like that, I just feel like each night could have had something more. Because as this game stands, while I do like the character designs, I do think that those are the only memorable parts of this game. Typically, when speaking about Five Nights at Freddy's games, a large part of the conversation ends up being about the lore of said game. And as I'm sure you all know, the stories of these games are usually incredibly dark, filled with murder, betrayal, and torment. However, not the game we're talking about today. In this video, we'll be talking about Chica's Party World Rebaked, one of, if not the most wholesome FNAF game I've ever played. From cute visuals, fun characters, all the way to a story that has nothing to do with dead children at all. There's a lot to unpack in this super fun experience, so join me today as we arch our backs into the world of Chica's Party World Rebaked. Chica's Party World does something before each night that I actually think is really cool. We get a task to complete, and we can explore and wander around the building before starting each night. So at 11 p.m., night 1 begins. In this game, we actually play as a robot security guard, not a human, which is adorable. I like to imagine our character looking like Rufus from Secret of the Mimic. Not that that's his canon name or anything, that's just what I chose to call him. It's our job as Rufus to keep watch over the entire restaurant using our built-in surveillance system. So our first task is to visit every single room in the building. This is when we get a chance to move through each room like a shadow over Freddy's. You'll notice that the building is incredibly dark. This would be because the lights are off and being able to see anything does require light. So luckily for us, Rufus has been equipped with an LED that can briefly flash light to shine up the room. After using it, you'll have to wait a few seconds while the LED recharges to be able to flash again. We can explore every single room in the building, that is, except for one. If you are to enter the kitchen, you'll see there's a metal door. Hovering over it won't tell you what room is on the other side, and you'll be completely unable to interact with it. But after you finish exploring, we're ready to jump into the night section and start talking about the tools at our disposal. At the beginning of the night, we're able to detect a corrupted voicemail on Rufus. Listening to it, we hear an unnamed woman talking about one of the characters, Russell. Russell is Freddy, by the way. Not totally sure why he's given a different name in this game, but we'll roll with it. The lady says that Russell is very sensitive to bright lights, and that the people taking pictures of him with the flash on during the day disorients him, and it almost seems to physically hurt him. And because of this, he's always trying to go somewhere where the people aren't around. Before she can say much else, the voicemail becomes corrupted and ends. As I'm sure you could have guessed, Russell is the only threat introduced on this night. However, before we talk about how he works, we should talk about the tools at our disposal. To start, the office has two main directions you can be attacked from, the door and the vent behind you. We'll talk about the vent when it becomes important later, so let's just focus on the door. You'll notice that the door, well, has no door. So if anything walks up to our office, we'll have to use something else to keep them away. And that thing we'll need to use is that trusty LED we talked about earlier. You can flash your LED down the hallway to allow you to see if anyone is creeping around. Of course, since we're a security robot, we have remote access to all of the cameras in the building, and we can use them as fucking cameras. I don't know what you want from me, it's a FNAF game, bro. There's cameras, who would have thought? Russell is a pretty simple character overall. He'll wander around the various cameras in an attempt to get to your office. Look at that fucking hat, big ass hat, dude. It's such a big hat. Where did you get a hat so big? Where did you get that big of a hat? Once you know he's in your doorway, flash your LED at him and he'll go away. Now, this may bring up the question, if you can't literally see him in your doorway without flashing, how are you supposed to know he's there? Well, that question has a very simple answer. All you have to do is use the fucking cameras that you have at your disposal. Follow Russell around, and when he disappears and you're unable to find him on any camera, then congrats, he's probably at your door and you should flash him. However, later in the game, I'll tell you about a different strategy I developed for dealing with Russell, because he has an incredibly difficult synergy with another character we'll talk about later. But before we move on, I want to mention this game's art style because it is really unavoidable. This is easily the most unique FNAF art style I've ever seen. It's so low poly and brightly colored, but in no way does it look like those shitty copy and paste PSX horror games that are plastered all over itch and make it impossible for any indie developer to stand out. Please, for the love of God, stop making PSX horror games. Do something unique. Please. Fuck. But seriously, the pastel color palette is super different from a FNAF game, a genre where dark, I don't know where the fuck I am is kind of the norm. I can really appreciate when developers try something different, and I think this game nailed it perfectly. 11 p.m. night 2, and we're given a new task. One of the wires in Rufus's arm went to shit, so we'll have to repair it before the night begins. And with that, we're off to find something to fix ourselves. Before we talk about how to actually complete the task, we should bring up that, of course, this game has two endings, a bad ending and the true ending. I will be going over the true ending in this video because, no shit, that's the ending that actually means something. During every 11 p.m. section aside from the first, there will be something hidden around the building for us to find. Finding all of them will result in us achieving the true ending, and in Night 2's 11 p.m. segment, if you travel into the arcade, you can find a letter of termination from a woman named Heather Gray. It reads, "Dear Heather Gray, your employment with Chica's Party World will be officially terminated on June 21st, 2023. Reasons for termination include frequent disrespect of superiors, threats of violence. You will not be allowed to work tomorrow by any means, so make sure to collect your belongings today. Please remember to also review our confidentiality agreement as you are under an NDA and will not be allowed to disclose company trade secrets as well as practices and methods of operation. Chica's Party World is entitled to take legal action if you are caught violating these terms both before and after employment. Review of benefits to include health coverage of 401k in compliance with COBRA,
Chica's Party World extends to eligible employees and their enrolled dependencies with the right to continue healthcare plan coverage for a specified period of time at their own expense and at full cost. Return of property. Please list and return any property of Chica's Party World that you may have in your possession. In addition, please provide any passwords and other information pertaining to accessing computer software and/or files. Your last paycheck will be received on June 21st, 2023. We wish you the best of luck in finding new employment, and we hope your experience has not been as regrettable as ours. Good luck.
That last line is actually brutal as fuck. If I got this letter from an employer and they threw in that jab at the end, I'd probably just kill myself, bro. Heather Gray got fucking smoked so bad it's insane. I should also mention that Rufus claims he doesn't remember meeting this person, but that the name is familiar to him, which is interesting. Anyways, on to how to actually fix Rufus's boo-boo. If you head to the backstage, you'll be able to find some electrical tape. We use it to patch up our frayed wire and move our way back to the office to begin the night. The voicemail we're able to listen to on night 2 does give us some interesting information. The woman mentions how Top Hat, the Tiny Bonnie character, has been hiding in the vents and getting himself stuck. I find it interesting that these robots seem to be trying to hide away from the people in the building. The lady mentions that she spoke with Top Hat, and it's clear during this phone call that while these voicemails were being recorded, this lady was with somebody else at the time, and she mentions to this someone that they're giving her a weird look when she says that she talked to Top Hat.
I did talk to Top Hat about why he's... I talked to him. Don't give me that look.
Okay, Jesus fuck, sorry. But before she can elaborate more, the voicemail cuts out. I think this is pretty interesting. It seems like this lady has some sort of connection to some, if not all, of these robots. I wonder who she could be. Anyways, obviously Top Hat is the threat introduced on this night. And in all honesty, he's not a big hassle at all. As the voicemail would suggest, Top Hat really likes the vent behind you. So that's where he'll try to attack you from. He'll meander around the cameras, hop into the vent, and hop bottom straight towards your office. Now, I don't know if you guys know anything about vents, but I happen to know a thing or two about them. I happen to know that crawling around an vent makes a lot of noise. That's why I have that one breaking and entering charge. Needless to say, I think she heard me in there. But that's not important. What is important is that you can also hear Top Hat when he's in your vent and about to attack you. When you hear him approaching, all you have to do is turn around and hold the vent door closed until you hear him bang on it like Foxy. Afterwards, you can reopen the vent. As of now, with only 2 threats attacking us, not much has changed from night 1. Just follow Russell around the cameras to know when he's in your doorway, and if you ever hear Top Hat in the vent, close that sucker and you'll be home free and ready to dive into night 3. Night 3, 11 p.m. time has finally arrived, and with it, a new task for us to complete. Rufus is having troubles connecting to the cameras, so figures the power may have been cut. Solving this problem is pretty easy. All we have to do is go into the dining area and reboot it. Simple sugar. However, as I'm sure you could have guessed, we have another piece of lore to discover as well. Remember that door in the kitchen that we couldn't interact with earlier? Well, after fixing the power, Rufus mentions that he hears something on the other side and goes to investigate. Upon doing so, we hear this.
I hear something coming from the doorway. Perhaps I should investigate.
No, we have to do this, Russell.
I know, but couldn't we just, I don't know, talk to them? Maybe they're friendly.
As much as I would like that, I don't think we have that option right now. We only have a few days left. Look, let's just keep trying for now. If we can't get through to them and it gets desperate, I'll take things into my own hands.
Well, Lowbite's helping tonight, right? Her temper's been nasty lately, but maybe she'll be able to get to them.
Oh, I can only hope. For the sake of all of us.
I should return to my station.
Well, apparently these animatronics are a bit more intelligent than they were led to believe. Russell was talking to an unnamed person about Lawbite joining us tonight, so we already know who the threat is going to be. If I had to guess who this person was talking to I'd probably say it's Chica, because that just makes sense. Anyways, let's go to the office. The voicemail we heard on this night is pretty interesting. The lady is talking about Lulbite, who apparently used to be called Tangle. However, when this is mentioned, she said that, quote, she wants to be called Lulbite now, end quote, which would imply that Lulbite told her this. She said that Lolbite is trying to be on her best behavior after what happened, so I can only assume that Tangle probably did some Bite of 87 style shit and now wants to be better, but I can't be sure. Obviously, Lolbite is the new threat introduced on this night, and she is bad news bears for our current strategy. While Lolbite moves around the cameras, her aggression will increase because you're not watching her. To make her anger go down, obviously all you have to do is follow her around the cameras and watch her. If it goes up all the way, you can guess what happens. Dead. Why is she such a problem for our current strategy? Well, of course, we're watching Russell all night right now, so adding a character that forces us to watch them is obviously going to be a pretty large problem. So, how did I change my strategy to prepare for this? Well, let me tell you. You know how we were watching Russell? Yeah? Well, I'm just gonna not do that anymore. I know, I'm a genius. All of my time on the cameras will now be poured into Lolbite, and at every opportunity I get to flash the hall with the LED, I will. Flash the hall, watch Lolbite until it recharges, instantly flash again. And of course, close the vent when I need to. Does this lead to needing to have luck with Russell? Yes, but it's also a lot easier on my poor little goblin brain. Oh yeah, I also lied because one other threat is introduced on this night. Coraline, Chica's cupcake. Very simple mechanic. Every once in a while she will appear on a camera and you will have to go find her. I want to die, I want to see one FNAF game without finding them on the cameras. That would be amazing. Anyways, when you find her, flash her, and if you don't, she's gonna fuck up your cameras and it'll be GG for you. Night 4, 11 p.m. That is what time and what night we are currently about to be speaking about. Anyways, the task on this night requires us to investigate a large crashing sound we heard in the building. But before we do that, oh hey look, a note on the table. On it shows a bunch of phrases scratched out with Gears Weld being circled. If I had to guess, Gears Weld is probably the name of a company that builds robots, perhaps animatronics. Continuing with our task, heading to the arcade will reveal that Top Hat is just chilling in the ball pit. Oh.
What? I don't tell you what to do.
Carry on.
Carry on. That's not, I like that. I like that. Top Hat's playing around. Playing around in there. After a short interaction with him, he dives back inside, and with our task completed, we head back to the office to be the night. There is one threat introduced on this night, and this is Silver Chicken, or as was originally going to be called, Spring Chica. She acts as more of a hallucination than anything you actually have to be worried about. And in fact, during this night's phone call, the lady mentions how she stopped programming its AI the moment that whoever she was speaking to told her to. So we can assume that she's been talking to her boss throughout this game. The way Silver Chicken works is pretty simple. She will randomly appear on the cameras like Phantom Balloon Boy from FNAF 3. Stare at her too long and she'll have intercourse with all of your tools, and the only way to avoid her is to obviously just not look at the camera she's on for too long. This brings up synergy with Lolbite, since you will be switching through cameras a lot trying to find her. But overall, Silver Chicken really isn't that much of an issue at all. Night 5, 11 p.m. Back to the coal mines for us. During this section, our task is pretty easy, and is technically the exact same as the wire fraying task. Our LED is broken and we need to find a replacement. Just like the wire task, head to the back room and install the new bulb and it's GG. The only difference in this task is that you obviously can't flash your LED while walking around the building until you replace it. However, before we head to the office, near the entrance of the building we can hear the phone ringing. Curious, we walk over to it, and when we answer the phone, we hear the following call.
Chica, there you are. Are you guys almost ready? I should be headed down in the next few hours. Make sure you have everyone with you when I get there.
Who is this? I suppose she had the wrong number.
Well, this is interesting. Clearly the person on the other end of the phone assumed that only Chica would answer it, hanging up immediately after hearing Rufus's voice. She says she's on her way, so who knows what that could mean. There's only one way to find out, and to do so, we first have to beat Night 5. I don't even want to explain the Night 5 voicemail to you. I think you'll enjoy it a lot more if you just hear it for yourself.
You wanna fire me? Fine. You can silence me, silence every single person who tells you the truth, but it doesn't stop it from being real. These machines are alive. You can argue all you want, they don't think, they don't feel, but no ordinary robot would ever show more compassion than you have as a leader. They're smarter than you think, I promise you that. You can't keep them here forever, and if they want out, they'll find a way to make it happen. And all things considered, I'm glad I won't have to be working for you when it happens. 6.
So it's confirmed. These robots are alive and they want to leave. And come to think of it, the girl in these voicemails sure sounds a lot like the girl we just heard on the phone who said she's coming this way, and she was fired. I wonder if she's not coming to take these robots away. Before we can figure that out, we first have to talk about the final threat this game introduces, the main attraction herself, Chica. Something I quickly want to mention is how fucking groovy the music is on night 5. I wouldn't call this night a boss fight night, but the music really makes it feel like one. Chica works very similarly to Russell, except she is much harder to track on the cameras. If you ever find Chica on the cameras, she will quickly jump into the blind spot of the camera to prevent you from seeing her. So while you do know which camera she's on, when she hides, it'll be impossible to tell if she's there, which I think, while annoying, is really cool. It shows how intelligent these robots are. Her goal is to get to your door like Russell, except where when Russell reaches the crossroads, aka this T-shaped part in your cameras, he will immediately show up at your door. Not Chica. Chica will jump between the left and right cameras of the crossroads and at random jump into your doorway. So you most certainly will have to try your best to keep an eye on her. Once she enters your doorway, just like Russell, flash her with the LED and she'll go away. And if you can hold your nerves together for long enough, you'll beat night 5, and if you've collected all of the secrets during the 11 p.m. sections, we'll get this final cutscene. Through the past nights you've spent here, something starts to click in place within you. These robots aren't just company property like you have been told to believe. These are people. Perhaps they may not walk and talk and breathe the same way that humans do, but there is no less still a sense of kinship, a sense of living. You aren't as different as you were told to think. As you wander out of your station, you see them start to leave. One by one, the animatronics start to make their way out of the broken entrance doorway, aided by someone on the outside. You tap on the shoulder of Chica from behind, the last one to go out of the door, giving her a small jolt of surprise.
What? Oh, it's you.
It's by no means an unwarranted reaction, that of shock and a hint of disdain. You can't blame her too much. They reprogrammed you specifically to hinder her. I want to come with you, you say, much to her surprise as well. In fact, she seems rather speechless at the statement, but it no longer seems to be in spite. The silence is broken by their ally peeking in through the doorway, reaffirming the escape.
Chica, we need to go.
An equally stunned silence when she lays eyes upon you. Though her face is covered by a mask, you can still see her glasses and hair.
Well, I suppose you'll need to make room for one more.
Chica states. You know that voice. It's the voice you heard over the recordings. It's the voice of the person who constructed you. Your thoughts are interrupted by the pressure of a hug. It feels like overheating, but different.
Call me Heather. Let's get you home.
From this day forward, you were no longer a tool for a company that cared little for your existence. Instead, you fight for a new life alongside your newfound friends. You disconnected yourself from the mainframe, taking all previous security footage alongside you. You're going home. The news surrounding the incident states that no leads have been uncovered due to the substantial lack of evidence regarding the stolen property. All databases have been completely wiped, and most trails lead to dead ends. Chica's party world shows no sign of reopening in the near future. So, there we go. Undoubtedly the most wholesome ending to a FNAF game I've ever seen in my life. An ending with no death, no betrayal, just some lost robots wanting to leave the establishment they were trapped in, and an employee who actually cared about them helping to achieve that. We get the reveal that Rufus was made by Heather, and even in this moment she was able to allow him to come with, even knowing his original purpose. Chica's party world gave these animatronics feelings and true character, even in these final moments really making you care about them, even after being attacked by them for so long. This game's story is incredible. It's so simple and easy to follow, yet is in all honesty one of, if not my favorite story ever told by a FNAF game I've ever seen throughout my FNAF career. Overall, Chica's Party World is one of the most enjoyable FNAF experiences I've ever had. From the fun and engaging gameplay loop, all the way to the aforementioned phenomenal story and storytelling of Poisonous Pastels, incredible work. And if you'd like to hear another piece of interesting information about this game, Avocado Dreams was one of the main developers of it. No matter where I go, and no matter what I talk about, every time I really enjoy a FNAF game for any reason, it seems like Avocado Dreams had something to do with it, and I'm all for it. Please go give this game a try and show it some love. You will not regret it. Well, let me know what you think. Do you agree with me, or do you think this game is just too different to be able to be a proper FNAF game? Let me know in the comments below. In my FNAF Legacy video, I asked you guys what your favorite official FNAF game recreation was, and my favorite answer was this one by FaZe Rings, who said Night Watch at Freddy's, and I totally agree. Easily one of the coolest and most interesting takes on a remake I've ever seen, and it's also made by Avocado Dreams. She really is just incredible. You can see my review of that game on this channel. You should go watch that one next. Remakes of the original Click Team FNAF games, something that is definitely pretty popular within the FNAF community. However, how many of them can you name that are actually memorable? FNAF 1 Remake, FNAF 2 Reimagined, Hopeless Pursuit. Sure, those are all titles that are definitely memorable for one reason or another, but the game we're going to be covering today I feel is very memorable. A game I only discovered recently and I really enjoyed. Today, we'll be talking about Five Nights at Freddy's Legacy, a recreation of the first FNAF game with so many changes, it's hard to tell that's even what it is. So strap in, because we've got a lot to talk about this time around. Join me today as we clap our cheeks into the world of Five Nights at Freddy's Legacy. Legacy does not begin in a very typical FNAF fashion. We begin in this red void of smoke, and a disembodied voice of who knows who speaking to us. They ask if they've reached us, and after confirming, they ask us the question, do you know what happens when the past gets infused with agony? After explaining that the answer is that it changes, they ask us one more question. Why did we drown in the lake? They say that we've disturbed its peace, not knowing what it is. The voice tells us we've brought consequences. So this tells me that this disembodied voice is most likely Old Man Consequences, from referencing the lake, the literally saying consequences, to of course the red background. That's really the only line I can draw as to who this is. But with that, we're booted to the menu screen and we can really begin. But of course, this game is still not done being extra. Upon starting a new game, we get what feels like a teaser trailer for the game, but it's inside of the game. I have no idea, it's really goofy and unique and I like it. But would you believe me if I told you that even after that, this game is still not done being itself? Let's just say that, because it's not. Afterwards, we get an opening cutscene.
Hello, my name is Ethan Caldwell, and tonight we continue our coverage of the developing case surrounding the mysterious disappearance at the recently reopened Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. The public had been captivated by the case. The missing security guard, 25 years old Daniel Grace, had last been seen arriving late for work on Monday night. No official causes had been released by officials, but the bizarre circumstances of Grace's disappearance had fostered speculation. Tragic accident, or was something more sinister involving the recently reopened Freddy Fazbear's Pizza?
Very interesting opening cutscene. Voice acting, not terrible at all. Really setting the scene. I'm enjoying this. What happens next? Oh my god, we're still not done being extra. Okay, that's fine. I can work with this. After watching the cutscene, we begin outside of the building and actually have to walk inside and into the back room to start doing tasks before the night truly begins. As far as I'm aware, there's nothing interesting you can find while walking to this back room. Oh, yeah, fat motherfucker. Jesus. Ugly. So once we get there, we can explain the downloading log task minigame. It's very simple. You have two monitors. One monitor you can use to download the phone call for each night so that you can listen to it later. And you can also read some interesting information. The second monitor is a camera feed that auto-scrolls through the cameras in the building. All you have to do is download the phone call by clicking and holding. And if Bonnie ever comes into the back room with you, just hide under your desk until you hear him leave. Oh my fucking Christ. Oh my God. Okay, Bonnie's on the move again. Why are you looking at me he's giving me that dream angle, bro. And don't give me the dream angle, bro. Once you finish fully downloading the phone call, you'll be thrown into the night. But before we can talk about the night, we first have to talk about the lore information you can read. After the disappearance of Charlie, the Fredbear's Family Diner closes its doors for good. Finally, I'm tired of working in this place. The animatronics smell like rotten eggs. I hope they never open again. So it seems in this universe, we have some name swaps. That's always fun. Who is Charlie? I have no idea. However, it's pretty clear he's dead as fuck. Not very Riz, but okay, you do you, I guess, boo. They say the animatronics smell like eggs. Weird diss, I suppose, but there are probably dead kids in there, so I guess that checks out too. Anyways, onto the actual night section. How does that sound? Night 1 gives us literally the longest phone call on the face of the planet. Seriously, it lasts until 4:30 a.m. Please God kill me. Anyways, fuck what the phone guy has to say. I'm gonna do it for him. My voice is way better, and I know you guys have some odd things to say about my voice. Yes, I read every single comment I get, by the way, guys. Some of you are fucking freaks. Behave. Let's start by talking about your office because it is a little different from FNAF 1. You do still have 2 doors, so that's nothing new. On the left side, you'll be able to flash the light down the hallway and hold the door closed. Simple sugar. This is what I do to my Willy in bed. I just fucking rock it back and forth. I'm not gonna shut up. The right side, however, is where things start to get a bit different. You'll notice there's no door. Well, uh-oh. Where the fuck did it go, huh? Well, joke's on you, there was never a door there in the first place. Why the hell would this company install a door on one side and not the other? I have no fucking idea. Someone clearly did the budget very poorly and they should be ashamed of themselves because this is just embarrassing. To compensate for no door, you can flash your flashlight down the hall and see a grand total of fucking nothing at all because your flashlight is actually ass. But who cares, right? Let's just hope we never have to use it. In front of us is a monitor that surprisingly is not our camera. On it, we have 3 options: reboot, alarm, and vent. I literally never once used the reboot menu, so I'm just gonna pretend like it doesn't even exist. The alarm and vent sections, however, are important, and I will explain them more once they become important. Anyways, who are the big bastards introduced on this night? Well, it's a remake of FNAF 1, so that should be pretty obvious. Night 1 introduces Bonnie and Chica. Don't click off the video! I promise they're interesting and do wildly different things than what they do in the original. I wouldn't be covering this game if they didn't. I promise. Let's start with Bonnie since we've already encountered him in the pre-night minigame. Bonnie can attack both your left and right doors. Fuck. I was hoping we could avoid using the flashlight, but I guess I'll just put my balls in a vice grip then, who cares? Bonnie is a shy little autistic emo femboy and doesn't handle eye contact very well. So if you stare at the camera he's on for too long, he'll crank that Soulja Boy and knock the entire thing offline for the rest of the night. Which, by the way, the phone guy mentions that the repair for said camera will come out of our paycheck if that is to happen. And since we're living in FNAF world where we're making a whopping $100 fucking a week, I highly doubt one of our paychecks would even be enough to pay for that anyways. So let's really try to prevent that from happening, shall we? If Bonnie chooses to attack your left door, you will be able to see him in the hallway when you use your light. From that point, just hold the door closed until you hear him bang on it and congrats, problem solved, he'll go back to the stage. Bonnie's attack on the right door is a little bit more interesting. When Bonnie gets to the right door, he will literally enter your office, which is just not a fun sight at all and will in fact make your blood pressure spike to 168 in a fraction of a second. Once he's in your office, you'll have to use the alarm system to make the loudest fucking noise of all time. And when you do, he'll run away because it's too loud and overstimulating. And remember, he's a little autistic, he's sensitive to sound, so you're really just bullying an autistic kid. That's not very epic, but do what you gotta do, I guess. Chica, on the other hand, also has 2 means of attacking you. The first has her go to a certain camera. Now pause for a moment. I want you to take a look at her belly and tell me, what camera do you think she goes to? If you said the bathroom to shit, I'll give you half points because she does travel through the bathroom. Chica's looking me in my eyes. Look at a cupcake. Look at a cupcake, bro. Look at his eyes. He's trying to seduce me and shit. And it's like low-key kind of working. I meant what? but no. The actual answer is the kitchen because she's a whale. If she's in the kitchen, you will have to use the bell button to scare her away. If you're wondering why the sound of a bell that signifies that food is ready would scare a hippo who eats for a living away, the answer is because she gets scared that the food has already been served in the dining room and she's really scared that she may have missed it, and maybe the kids in the dining room have already started eating, but she actually has a rule in her house where nobody is allowed to eat until she's full, except spoiler alert, roly-poly ass chicken bitch is never full, so all of the kids starve and die. Anyways, move. The stupidest thing I've ever written. Anyways, moving on to her second attack where she goes into your vents. Now pause. There's a very easy fat joke I could make here about her not being able to fit in the vent. However, I would never make a fat joke, and this game indirectly makes one for me. Let me explain. Throughout my playthrough, which you can see over on my second channel, Dxtr Black, Chica attacked me through the vent no more than 3 times ever. For some reason, she just doesn't really ever do it, which would lead me to believe that my headcanon that she's such a fat bitch. Which would lead me to believe that my headcanon that she's such a fat bitch that she's too scared to try and move through the vents would be correct. If you want to hear my alternative headcanon as to why she doesn't attack through the vents, even though she's programmed to, it's that she'd much rather go to the kitchen where the food might be. Pig ass fucking robot bitch. Anyways, if she does go through the vent, she'll make a sound cue, and all you have to do is use your monitor to seal the vent until you hear her leave. But hey, not so bad. Pretty easy to understand overall. With that, we complete night 1 and can move on to night 2. But of course, before we can start night 2, we have a pre-night phone call to download. Fuck actually talking about the minigame part, it's literally identical to night 1, and the remainder of the nights are as well. But we can of course talk about the lore we can read during it. Finally got the job here at this new Freddy's location. I can't wait to start tinkering around with those animatronic models. They're supposed to have this new advanced free roam mode? Crazy technology. This message seems to be coming from a possible new hire technician designed to work on programming the characters. In the night 1 phone call, the phone guy mentions that the characters were specifically programmed to walk around at night to stretch their legs. So maybe this guy is the guy that chose to make that decision, even though there's literally no need for it whatsoever. This guy just seems like the type to get way too excited over his interests. He probably has a pony jar, I'm just saying. Night 2 begins with the phone guy talking literally as long as he fucking can. This phone call lasts until 2:50 a.m. So that's just awesome. Anyways, who gets introduced on this night? Well, slow your roll, fucker. There's 2 things about the cameras I want to talk about first. The first is that during this phone call, the phone guy mentions that William disabled the backstage camera. However, when you go to check the backstage camera, you'll see that it works perfectly fine. So I don't know what that guy was talking about. The second thing is that Bonnie destroyed the kitchen camera, so you're stuck listening to be able to tell if Chica is there or not. Hooray! I love life. That's a lie, I don't. Anyways, back to who gets introduced on this night. Well, guess what? It's nobody. Nobody is introduced on this night. I'm fairly certain that night 2 is when Bonnie and Chica are allowed to start using their second form of attack. Bonnie's right hall attack and Chica's vent attack. Maybe. I'm not really sure exactly why nothing new is introduced here, if I'm being honest, but that's what happens. Anyways, let's move on to night 3. Maybe something new will be added there. Night 3, phone guy only talks until 1:53 a.m. So hey, I guess that's progress. Night 3 does actually introduce something new, but before we talk about who it is, I want to mention something the phone guy brings up. He says that William ordered 2 vintage animatronics, a type of animatronic that they don't make anymore, from an old location. Now, I'm not a genius, but it also doesn't take a genius to figure out that he's undoubtedly talking about Fredbear and Spring Bonnie. He says they won't need any repairs, so that means they're working exactly as intended and there shouldn't be any problems with them at all, right? Anyways, night 3 introduces Freddy, and a mechanic that makes me want to stick a push pin in my testicle, pull it out, and slowly squeeze all of the various juices out of it. Freddy stays on stage for a majority of the night. However, whenever he damn well pleases, he will choose to leave with a sound cue. When he does, you will have to find him on the fucking cameras as he teleports to a random one. God damn, guys, I'm getting real sick of this mechanic, you know that? Anyways, luckily, Freddy can't go to literally any camera. He can only teleport to the backstage camera, the arcade camera, the dining hall camera, the restroom camera, or the entrance camera. Basically all the fucking cameras. Once you find which camera Freddy went to, all you have to do is use a camera flash to send him back to the main stage. I know I haven't talked about the camera flash yet, but this is really the only occasion you ever use it. So I thought, why bring it up earlier? Anyways, let's move on. You don't need to hear me explain my thought process for pacing while I script. Let's continue. Actually, now that I say let's continue, I'm noticing that's the only thing Night 3 introduces, so we should probably move on to Night 4. But hold up! After beating Night 3, we actually get a post-Night 8-bit minigame. And this is actually the only post-Night 8-bit minigame throughout the whole game. In this minigame, we play as William inside the restaurant. Upon trying to leave the room, we're told to get what we need. After what took me probably 5 fucking minutes of trial and error, I finally found out that you need to interact with this very obvious looking present on this table. You might be wondering how it took me 5 minutes to figure that out, and that's because I tried it right away, but nothing happened. The hitboxes in this minigame are some of the most retarded, inconsistent shit I've ever seen. If I had to pick a least favorite moment from this entire game, it would undoubtedly be playing this minigame. Anyways, after opening the gift box, we get a knife and can exit the back room. Outside of it, we find a crying child asking for his parents. We tell him we know where his parents are, and upon following us to the back room, we fucking murder him, smiling the entire time. What if I just don't? Can I just choose to like not do that? Maybe that's a crazy ask. Okay, I have to. Damn! Based. Based. Everybody, it's based. Based and Riz. Based and Riz, bro. Anyways, on to Night 4. Night 4 has the phone guy relapse and completely break all of his progress he's made so far as he yaps until fucking 4:06 a.m. Jesus Christ, bro. There cannot be that much to talk about. And in truth, there really isn't. 80% of his phone calls are made up of awkwardly laughing at the unfunniest joke you've ever heard really slowly, and then pretending like the joke he said he didn't even say. Interesting.
Let's just say the camera now has a new perspective on the floor tiles.
Oh. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. Phone guy is a character for sure in this game. Anyways, what's introduced? Night 4 introduces one new threat, that being Foxy. The final threat this game introduces, actually. And if you know my videos, you know I'm fucking lying and we're gonna introduce some more later, but fuck you. Foxy is probably my favorite character in this entire game, having his attack act as sort of a minigame reminiscent of Five Nights at Candy's 3. Very vaguely. Foxy will slowly appear out from behind his curtains, which, in all honesty, these Foxy frames are probably the creepiest frames throughout the entirety of this game, if I'm being honest. They're not like literally scary, but the positions he's in, mixed with how large he is, just makes him feel very uncomfortable. Anyways, how does he work? After he leaves Pirate's Cove, you will be able to hear him running towards either your left door or your right door, and very intense music will start playing like it's a fucking boss fight, which I think is really cool. If he runs towards your left door, all you have to do is close the door until you hear him bang on it. If he runs to the right door, all you have to do is hold your light on his face until he runs away. Where this becomes slightly reminiscent of Candy's 3 is that he will move around and attack multiple times, going back and forth between the two doors as many times as he'd like. Is it hard? No, and in fact, literally every other character pauses while Foxy is attacking you. So that's very RNG considerate. Thank you guys greatly. But yeah, that's about it. Pretty fun character overall. Gets your blood pumping a bit, especially when you hear the music that starts to play alongside it. But anyways, on to Night 5. I lied. I have one other thing I want to talk about first. During the Night 4 phone call, the phone guy mentions that one of the animatronics they were shipping arrived early and was like nothing that was written down to be shipped. A single endoskeleton with a weird model they've never seen before and very sharp fingers. They say they're leaving it in the safe room for now until they know what to do with it. First of all, I should mention that the safe room is a camera that you have never been able to access since the start of the game. The second thing to mention is that I'm not like an expert, and I'm really bad when it comes to the official FNAF lore, like criminally terrible, and if I'm being honest, I actually don't even like the official FNAF lore, and I haven't since Pizzeria Simulator. But that endoskeleton sounds a lot like the Mimic to me. Maybe I'm just a bit nutty, but I bet I'm not. 6 a.m., bro, let's do it. Easy peasy lemon dick.
This is Henry Emily, the founder and, for better or worse, the sole person responsible for this place's continued existence.
Oh my god, it's the fucking Mimic. So yeah, after beating Night 4, we get a scrap minigame with what I can only imagine is the Mimic. And of course, this minigame works exactly how the minigames in Pizzeria Simulator work. Play some weird-ass sounds, document results. Watch the fucker across the table move in ways you'd really prefer it doesn't. You know, FNAF shit. Shit we're all used to at this point. But after you get jump scared by the Mimic, we can talk about the pre-Night 5 minigame. Dexter, you've already said these don't change. Well, you're right. It really doesn't change from the other 4 we've done. However, on this night, we also get access to the admin panel where we can actually enable the safe room camera's access. Oh yeah, and we also see M2 plans that are redacted. I'm pretty sure being references to the Mimic, and Charlotte being redacted too. Dead kid stuff, who cares? I want to see this camera, bro. Oh, I see. Yeah, I don't like that. I don't like that one bit, I can tell you what. Well, we're gonna talk about those guys a bit later. For now, let's just talk about Night 5. Night 5 is pretty boring overall, being a harder version of Night 4. That is, until you beat it. That's when something I wasn't expecting to happen at all happened.
Connection terminated. I'm sorry to interrupt you like this, but I'm afraid your time is up. Your curiosity and your need for answers are what first brought you here. And now, they have become your undoing. Because all those who enter this place are doomed to never leave. There are monsters who steal others' voices, monsters who steal others' souls. And then, there is you, the one who craved to learn more than he should, and more than he ever will. You will not find the answers you seek here, only your ruin. But while your sacrifice will be forgotten, the impact it will have will not, as the wounds of the past left to fester can finally heal. There will be no more suffering, no more loss, only peace. Peace and a forgotten tomb sealed away, never to be opened again. It all ends tonight. End communication.
Holy shit, we're getting a Golden Freddy boss fight, and it actually has the most badass intense boss music I've ever heard in my fucking life. Golden Freddy isn't very complicated, but he does attack you very quickly, so you'll have to stay on your toes. And of course, he has several attack methods at his disposal, which are all inspired by the attacks of the other characters in typical boss night fight fashion. His first attack has him appear at your right door. All you have to do is hold your light on him until he goes away. His other attack has him pull a Freddy and have you find him on the cameras. However, this one actually proves to be easier than Freddy is, since he actually only appears on 2 cameras, the back room and the entrance. And that's actually it. Dexter, that's it? That's all the final boss of this game has to offer? Really? Hey, shut the fuck up. Look at how much time is left in this video. We're not done yet, bro. Sit the fuck down. About 30 seconds into the night is when you'll notice that all the other characters are still active. What the fuck? This is why Golden Freddy only has 2 attacks, because he's in addition to everything else you've already gotten used to, mixed with the incredibly intense music, the fire all over your screen, the shit in my britches. This serves to be one of the coolest boss fight nights I've ever seen in a FNAF game. It's so fun.
Good morning. I am Ethan Caldwell. We're coming to you with breaking news. A catastrophic fire has reduced the newly reopened Freddy Fazbear's Pizza to ashes in what officials are calling a nightmare scenario. Flames tore through the building just after 7 a.m., with witnesses reporting smoke so thick it blotted out the morning sun. Firefighters arrived, but the inferno had already consumed the entire structure. Authorities confirm all employees escaped unharmed, and thankfully, no customers were inside at the time. However, in a grim twist, investigators have revealed 2 disturbing details. First, the restaurant's infamous animatronic characters, along the centerpiece of the franchise, were completely destroyed in the blaze. And second, even more unsettling, there was an intruder inside when the fire broke out. Security footage recovered from an external camera shows an unidentified individual entering the building in the middle of the night. Their motives remain unknown. What is certain, however, is that they never made it out. Police have not yet released a description, but sources close to the investigation say the manner of death was, unquote, horrific. This tragedy only deepens the dog's legacy of Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. After years of controversy, bizarre incidents, and persistent rumors of hauntings, many are asking, was this arson, an accident, or something far more unnatural and sinister? We'll continue to follow the story shortly for Channel 7 News. Stay tuned.
To our beloved Fazbear family. At Fazbear Entertainment, our top priority has always been delivering safe, wholesome, and unforgettable experiences for families across our establishment. In light of the recent isolated events at one of our locations, we want to take this opportunity to reassure our loyal fans that every possible measure is being taken to ensure such thing will not happen again. While the exact circumstances surrounding the incident remain under internal review, preliminary findings suggest it was caused by absolutely nothing related to prior complaints or unresolved maintenance issues. Our team is working closely with third-party investigators to determine the best path forward. We'd also like to clarify that reports of unusual activity prior to the event, including alleged animatronic malfunctions, unexplained power surges, are entirely unfounded and likely the result of overactive imaginations. Rest assured, all our animatronic performers are completely harmless and incapable of independent movement outside of their pre-programmed routines. Any footage suggesting otherwise is clearly doctored or taken out of context. As we look toward the future, Fazbear Entertainment is excited to announce a temporary pause on operations at the affected location while we conduct routine modernization efforts. We remain fully committed to reopening when the time is right. Thank you for your unwavering trust. Warm regards, Fazbear Entertainment Public Relations Team. Creating smiles, no matter what. Afterwards, we get yet another chat with Old Man Consequences. We obviously died in that fire on night 5, but the old man asks us what we would do if we could go to a timeline where the fire didn't occur, a timeline where William failed. The old man wants to show us what would happen, and show us he does, as next we're set to take on the Golden Ones. But before we do, we get a black gift box. Inside, a note which reads, "Every ripple is a year you can't take back." Night 6 has us take on Fredbear and Spring Bonnie, with all of the other characters disassembled in the back room. This night is easily the most challenging night throughout the entire game. Let's talk about why. Let's start by talking about Spring Bonnie, who has 2 forms of attack. The first has him attack your left door exactly like Bonnie. Same rules apply here, just close the door. However, it's a much better option to just not even let him get to your door in the first place. The way you do so is very easy. Whenever you flash Spring Bonnie on your cameras, he will go back to the stage. So you're obviously going to want to do that a lot. What about his second attack? Well, that would have him use the vents, which, by the way, unlike fat ass, fuck ass, dumb ass, bitch ass, dunce ass, stupid ass, dumb ass Chica, he will actually do very frequently. And he is incredibly fast in them. The moment you hear his vent sound cue, you need to drop whatever you're doing and focus on that goddamn vent, because he will rail you in your ass if you don't. But what about Fredbear? Honestly, he's easier than Spring Bonnie in every way, but he does cause 2 major annoyances in combination with Spring Bonnie. Fredbear tries to attack your right door, just like Bonnie. When he enters, play the alarm and he'll leave. However, when the alarm is playing, Spring Bonnie actually moves at a faster rate, which is just fucking awful. Also, it's probably a good idea to mention that Fredbear also attacks fast as shit. And actually, both of their aggression increases throughout the night. So near the end, you'll probably have Fredbear in your office all the fucking time. Hooray. But what about the other super annoying thing that Fredbear does? Well, Fredbear doesn't like being flashed and will disable any camera that you do flash with him on it, requiring you to reboot, which takes forever. The problem? Well, it's common for Spring Bonnie and Fredbear to appear on the same camera at the same time. And with how quickly Spring Bonnie moves, it's likely that the muscle memory to flash immediately will be built quickly. So if you're anything like me, you were accidentally flashing Fredbear a lot. And if you're really retarded like me, you'd forget that the camera's being disabled does not mean the night is over, and every single time you accidentally flashed Fredbear, instead of just rebooting, you instead chose to restart the night every single time. I'm not the brightest person, guys, okay? I try my best over here. These streets are hard. Even though these two characters together don't have many ways of killing you, this night is still incredibly stressful, mainly with just how fast these two get in the final hour. However, something about this night, and this entire game in fact, is that I honestly never once felt like RNG was a factor at all. And that's rare. I play FNAF games for a living, so I see a lot of them. And never once have I played a game that really felt like there was no RNG at all. And I honestly think that's one of the coolest things, ever. But if you can keep your composure long enough, you'll complete the night and get to watch this super awesome tape.
Welcome to Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, a magical place for kids and grown-ups alike where fantasy and fun come to life. Our establishment is a place where fun and safety go hand in hand. Part of what makes our family-friendly experience so special are the animatronics that entertain our guests. To ensure they continue to operate smoothly and safely, proper cleaning and maintenance is essential. And that's where you come in, our dear employee. Without you, none of this would be ever possible. In this tape, we will guide you through the process of cleaning our beloved animatronics. It is important to follow these steps carefully and thoroughly to keep our characters in tip-top shape and ensure everyone's safety.
How to clean the joints and the mechanisms.
First of all, you will need a soft brush, a mild cleaning solution, and a dry towel. Avoid using any harsh chemicals as they can damage the animatronic suit. Using said soft brush, carefully clean the joints and mechanical parts while avoiding any visible human remains.
Human remains, human remains, human remains.
And once you finish cleaning, give yourself a pat on the back and a complimentary slice of pizza and climb into the animatronic. This really makes sure that it's ready to entertain our guests again. And thank you so much for being a part of Fazbear Entertainment. Fazbear Entertainment is not responsible for any injury, loss of a child, or loss of a head that may occur on our premises. By entering our establishment, you agree that Fazbear Entertainment is not liable for any damages, accidents, or unfortunate incidents that may arise.
While I do find it incredibly unfortunate that I had to look at Fat Shit Toy Freddy for a majority of this tape, we do see some pretty rizzy stuff, like a redacted dead child probably, and of course the Golden Freddy scene, where he mentions there's a girl inside of him, most likely referring to the fact that there are two souls caught inside of the Golden Freddy suit. Something about this game that I really like is that there's so much additional, non-repetitive things added to it. The random 8-bit minigame, this tape, the salvage minigame, none of it was needed, but I think it's such a nice touch that it was chosen to be added anyways. After the tape, we get one final chat with Old Man Consequences. He asks if we wish to go back, if we're finally satisfied. He mentions how boring the present is and asks if we enjoyed the legacy. Nice name drop, by the way. There's also like so much other bullshit he says in this final cutscene. I'm gonna be real, guys. I just cannot be fucked to try and understand it. There's so much random symbolic shit about like the lake being a mirror and being pulled out when you're choking from drowning in the lake, but the lake is a mirror, so what the fuck? I hate metaphors and I don't want the headache. I'm sure whatever this means is super deep and cool, but I'm not about to spend the next 5 hours writing a fucking MLA format essay trying to decipher it. Not my forte, thank you. But with that, that's all Five Nights at Freddy's Legacy has to offer. Overall, I think this game is probably my favorite reimagining of the original FNAF game that I've ever played. Each character feels super unique, and even the typical boring characters have multiple ways to attack you, which keeps them interesting the whole time. There's so much extra things added throughout the game to keep the loop exciting. The game looks amazing, the story is intriguing and mysterious, which I know a lot of people really like, and I would definitely recommend you go and give it a try. Juniors is the most unique FNAF fan game I've ever played, and I have played a lot of them. Really, I've quite literally built my entire career around playing FNAF games, and Juniors is 100% the most fun I've ever had playing any FNAF game ever designed. This video is here to go over everything I love about the game and the few things that I hate, because truly, I do not believe there is currently any FNAF fan game that does the formula better than Juniors. So let's waste no more time on the intro that nobody cares about and get into the best FNAF fan game ever made. Before we begin talking about Juniors, I want to tell a bit of a story, or I guess more of a fun fact. I actually wanted to avoid playing and reviewing Juniors for the longest time. I've been getting suggestions for it since my first ever FNAF video over a year ago, and I've always decided that I didn't want to touch it. Why? Because I used to have this really cringy way of thinking. If something is popular, it must be overrated type of mentality. After finally sitting down and playing through Juniors, seeing it completely blind for my first time ever, I will never in my life think like that ever again. This game truly has made me more passionate to create content more than any other game ever has. Set your expectations as high as you want, and I guarantee Juniors will still blow them out of the water. We play as an unnamed paranormal investigator. We're assigned with exploring the supernatural presence of the restaurant Juniors. As I'm sure you may have guessed, yes, this is the same Juniors that can be seen in the Midnight Motorist minigame from Pizzeria Simulator. We wake up in a place called the Barrens, which seems to be a limbo between life and death. Looking up, we can see what I assume to be our own brain, and we soon meet a character named Paul Bear. Throughout this game, we don't learn much about Paul Bear, but he is the only friend we have throughout the game. Paul Bear explains that there is an evil presence inside of the Juniors establishment, only ever referring to it as the Ghost. Eventually, we strike a deal with Paul Bear. He agrees to help us with our investigation of Juniors, and we agreed to help Paul Bear find freedom from the Ghost by defeating it in one way or another. With that, we head to bed and start our first night. Usually, the way I talk about nights in FNAF games is pretty basic. I bring up which threats are introduced, how to deal with them, and throw in a dick joke or something. However, Juniors does the entire FNAF formula so differently from any other FNAF game I've seen, so covering this is going to be a fun change of pace. To start, Juniors completely gets rid of the sit and survive style of gameplay that most other FNAF games have. The game still has the classic 6 nights, however, each night isn't completed once you've made it to an arbitrary time limit. Instead, similar to a game like Pizzeria Simulator, progression is based on finishing tasks. Except the key difference between the tasks in Pizzeria Simulator and the tasks in Juniors is that one of those games has super fun tasks that I look forward to doing, and the other game is fucking Pizzeria Simulator. But what exactly are the tasks in Juniors? I'm so glad you asked, because these tasks are the sole reason why this game is so amazing. Throughout the night, the ghost Paul Bear was telling us about will enter one of the animatronics at random. It's our job to watch the cameras for weird anomalies and figure out which animatronic is possessed. And each night, you will have to correctly identify where the ghost is more and more times. On night 1, you need to correctly identify the ghost 2 times, and with each subsequent night, that number goes up by 1. But before we really get into that, there's something else that this game does that I wasn't expecting. Typically in FNAF games, the animatronics will make their way to your office and try to attack you. This is actually not the case in Juniors. The animatronics will never come to your office. Well, at least not in the typical FNAF way, but I'll cover that in a minute. The tools at our disposal are pretty minimal. We have our cameras, control panel, and our repair room. Throughout the course of the night, if you check your control panel, you will be able to see the condition of each of the 6 animatronics. Yes, 6. You've got the main 4, with the addition of the marionette and balloon bitch, or as this game calls him, balloon baby. As the night progresses, the condition of each of these characters will decrease. If they ever go completely empty, they'll use your ass as sustenance and gobble it up. At any time, you can send one of the animatronics onto a conveyor belt that will bring the character to your repair room. Once inside the repair room, you can quickly fix them and send them back into the pizzeria. This will cause their condition to go back up to 100. However, you have to be careful, because if you send the possessed animatronic to your office, it's game over. Another thing to note is that you can't send more than one character to your repair room at a time. Moving on to the actual ghost hunting part of this game. As mentioned previously, there are 6 characters that the ghost can possess. Both at the start of the night and directly after identifying the possessed character, you will get a grace period where no animatronic is possessed. You should use that time to send the lowest conditioned animatronic to your office to be repaired. There are multiple different cues to tell you who the possessed animatronic is. It seems like throughout the nights, new clues are introduced. However, I cannot find a distinct list of what clues get introduced each night, so I'm going to be guessing based on my experience. If you know that I'm wrong, let me know in the comments below. There are 2 clues that are introduced on night 1. The first one is pretty easy: camera flickering. When an animatronic is possessed, they have a chance to cause the camera that they are currently on to start flickering. The cameras by default flicker their lights, so this is pretty subtle, but if you look closely at an actual flickering camera, you'll be able to tell that the ghost is on it, because between the flickering, the cameras will have a brief period where they go black. That sounds pretty easy, I hear you saying, and while yes, it is, this is another part of the game that I think is super cool. There aren't an insane amount of cameras to look through, and it's very common that multiple characters will be visible on a camera at the same time. So this brings up the possible problem. If the cameras are flickering on a camera, but multiple characters are present, how do we figure out which of the animatronics is actually the possessed one? This right here, this conflict that you have to figure out, is the main reason why I love this game so much. It's such a simple problem, but the way you go about solving it can be different depending on your playstyle. This is honestly the coolest mechanic I've ever seen out of any FNAF game, and I don't think it's ever going to be beat. So, what was my strategy? Let's start with the hypothetical that we'll use throughout this video. Let's say we're looking at a camera that has Freddy, Bonnie, Chica, and Foxy present on it. The camera is flickering, so we know that either Freddy, Bonnie, Chica, or Foxy are the possessed animatronic. The first thing I would do is either send Balloon Bitch or the Marionette to the conveyor belt, since I know full well it can't be one of them. So I'd just pick whoever has lower condition. Then I would constantly keep my eye on all 4 animatronics on that camera until one or more of them left. Once they left, let's say for example Freddy and Chica leave, I would stay on the camera to see if the flickering persisted. If it did, then I'd know it can't be Freddy or Chica. Let's say Foxy left next and Bonnie stayed on the camera. If the lights stopped flickering, then I'd know for a fact it has to be Foxy. And if I really wanted to double check, I could find the camera where Foxy left to and see that the lights are still flickering. But as I've said, that is only 2 of the clues that are introduced on this night. What's the other? Handprints. I should mention that once the ghost possesses a character, only one of the clues will become present in that character until it is found. And from what I can tell, they never switch which clue they have until the ghost is found. Handprints are pretty simple. When a possessed character leaves a camera, they will leave a handprint behind on the lens of the camera. So let's go back to our hypothetical again. Freddy, Bonnie, Chica, and Foxy are all on one camera. Freddy and Chica leave, and after doing so, we spot a handprint on the lens. That means we now know that the ghost has to be in either Freddy or Chica. So we can send either Foxy, Bonnie, the Marionette, or Balloon Bitch to the conveyor belt, and all that's left is to watch Freddy or Chica. Whoever we choose, we wait for them to leave a camera. If Chica leaves and a handprint isn't seen, that means the possessed character has to be Freddy. And with that, night 1 is in the bag. After the night, we head back to the Barrens and talk to Paul Bear again. He explains that he himself chooses to stay in the Barrens because the ghost won't go there. Pussy-ass ghost Paul Bear is afraid of another ghost. Don't question it. It's kind of like those people who are afraid of other people. What do we call those things? Oh, yeah, moderators. Anyways, night 2 time. Night 2 doesn't appear to add any new clues. However, I will take this time to talk about how Paul Bear can aid in our investigations throughout the night. If at any point you're confused on who the ghost may be hiding in, once per night you can go to the control panel and actually ask Paul Bear who he thinks it is. He'll be able to narrow it down to 2 characters. Do you need this to beat the nights? No. but I do think it's kind of neat that it's available if you're struggling. I only ever used it once throughout my playthrough on accident because I didn't know that clicking on this would actually cause him to give me a hint. Also, if you want to watch my full playthrough, you can do so on my second channel, Dxtr Black. It's also on this night where I want to bring up the Marionette and Balloon Bitch. Since you can never actually see either of them on the cameras, you may be wondering how you're supposed to be able to tell if they are possessed. I'll talk about the Marionette later, so for now I'll talk about Balloon Bitch. His mechanic is actually incredibly simple, and I honestly think it's one of the weakest mechanics in the entire game. All you have to do to check if Balloon Bitch is possessed is look at your control panel. If his condition number is freaking the fuck out, he's possessed. If it's not, he's not. That's it. Again, I don't really think that this has a good reason for existing. Maybe the dev just wanted a 6th character so that there would be 3 on each side on the control panel, but I feel like it would have been much more interesting if you just allowed Balloon Bitch to be seen on the camera like the main 4. He could have been made to be a more challenging character. Since he's smaller than everyone else, having him hide in the cameras and be immune to the motion sensor could have been a super interesting challenge. But let me know what you guys think about Balloon Bitch in the comments. After completing night 2, we find a VHS tape. Watching it shows a claymation of Freddy carrying an animatronic limb up to a door. The door has a note on it that says, "Beware the mangle." Looking up, Freddy appears to see said mangle looming down on him, and the cutscene comes to a close. Heading back to the Barrens, we ask Paul Bear about what we saw on the tape. He says he believes that the ghost is trying to build itself a body in the form of the mangle, and that it's possessing the other characters to bring the parts to it. Appearing that we're now on a timer, we know that we have to do something, so we head to sleep and move on to night 3. Night 3 introduces one new clue that the characters can use: camera movement. This one is pretty simple. However, I should start by explaining how the cameras work a little bit more. Typically in FNAF games, the camera will slowly pan back and forth as you look at them. In Juniors, you have to manually move the cameras to see the full picture using WASD. The camera movement clue does exactly what you'd think. If you're moving the cameras, the ghost can cause it to jerk in a direction you're not moving it in. My camera got fucked a little bit, the weird control. I don't know if that was me fucking around or if that was the heathen. Whoa. My camera just fucking zipped. Using that, you can follow the exact same method as the flickering clue. However, the camera will not jerk if you aren't moving the cameras, so you'll need to get into the habit of doing that often. Although that really shouldn't be a problem since, again, you can't see the whole camera unless you move it. This is also the night where I want to talk about the Marionette and how she works. Just like Balloon Bitch, you can't see the Marionette on the cameras. However, you can hear her. You can tell which camera she is on by listening for the music box. If you hear it, then you know that the Marionette is on whichever camera you're looking at. Fundamentally, is this different from the 4 main characters? No. However, I do think it's a super fun addition to the formula, where if we were using our hypothetical again from earlier, let's imagine all 4 of the main characters are on a camera and the camera is jerking in a random direction when we move it. Then, all 4 characters leave at the same time, but the camera is still somehow jerking. Then you notice that you've been hearing the music box the whole time and just weren't paying attention. Now you know that it has to be the Marionette. It's not that it's hard to figure out, but it may be something that slips your mind as you're so focused on trying to find the ghost. I love the Marionette in this game, and if you couldn't guess from my constant glaze, it's the best Marionette I've ever seen out of any FNAF game. After completing night 3, we find another tape. On it, we watch the ghost leave Freddy and move to Bonnie. Then see Bonnie carry another piece of the mangle to the secret door. This is another thing I really like about this game. Even though you can't feel it, you know both you and Paul Bear are in a race against the clock. As with every passing night, the mangle gets closer and closer to being completed. And you know that once it's finished, your chances of winning become slim to none. Heading back to the Barrens, Paul Bear isn't present. Climbing up a ladder, we find him in a tree looking out at the brain. We tell him that our investigation ends soon. Paul Bear mentions that the spirits know he's in the Barrens with us by now, and we devise a plan to break into the secret room, the basement, and get to the mangle before it's put together. Sharing a moment of solace together, we head back into the restaurant. Somehow, this game is actually making me care about a character, which is insane to say given the fact I'm talking about a FNAF game right now. But regardless, it's on to Night 4. Night 4 introduces the most ball-busting clue we've ever seen: camera malfunctions. This does exactly what you'd think. The possessed animatronic will cause a malfunction on whatever camera they are on. That means if we go back to our hypothetical, Freddy, Bonnie, Chica, Foxy, and the marionette are all on the same camera. One of them becomes possessed, so we lose the ability to see that camera. Fuck. Continuing to watch the cameras, we hear the music box stop, but the malfunction continues. We now know that it can't be the marionette. All of a sudden, the camera pops back on, and all we can see is Bonnie. Well, now we know that it can't be Bonnie. Now we look around the cameras until we find the malfunctioning one again. As we look, we spot Foxy on a camera. We now know that the ghost is either Freddy or Chica. Oh fuck. You quickly check the control panel and see that Freddy and Chica are both at 15 stability. What are we to do? We don't have enough time to keep watching. So it is now our time to make a decision you will probably have to make at least once in your playthrough. Praying to the RNG gods that the ghost isn't in Freddy as you send him down the conveyor belt. Freddy finally arrives and you don't die, so you now know it has to be Chica. Realistically, this exact situation doesn't happen all too often, but I do think this malfunction clue is by far the most stressful out of all of them. I think it adds a new type of tension that the game needed. I love this clue. I think it adds a whole new interesting way of analyzing the threat. It's fantastic. After completing the night, we find another VHS. In it, we see the ghost possess Chica while she's sleeping, and she takes another piece to the basement. Heading back to the Barrens, we keep it short and sweet with Paul Bear. He says he knows of a way to the basement, and we tell him that after we wrap up our investigation tonight, we'll meet back up with him and head there to put an end to this. Heading to bed, it's on to Night 5. Night 5 adds no new clues, only being a more difficult version of Night 4, and by more difficult, I mean we have to find the ghost 7 times instead of 6. I'm really out of things to talk about when it comes to the night sections, as I've talked about everything that's relevant throughout them. All we have left to talk about now is in the basement. After completing Night 5, we get one last tape revealing all of the characters awakening the Mangle, a foreshadow of what's to come. Heading back to the Barrens, Paul Bear explains the plan. We'll go along with whatever the Mangle has planned and lure her into the Barrens and trap her forever. We say our final goodbyes to Paul Bear and enter the basement, not knowing what's ahead of us. Upon entering the basement, we're greeted to a new office. The basement serves as Night 6, the boss fight night. I'm just gonna put this out here right now. I am not a fan of Night 6, gameplay-wise at least. I think it looks great, and I think it serves excellent story purposes, but I think it's a massive step back from the core loop of the game. The basement is set up exactly how the office from FNAF 2 is. 2 open vents to your left and right, and a large hallway in front of you. You have access to a flashlight, cameras, and a Bonnie mask. Yes, it's literally just FNAF 2, even equipped with a music box to constantly wind throughout. Maybe this is the reason I don't like this night. Just kidding, it's not a maybe. Of course this is the reason I don't like it. I'm not a huge FNAF 2 fan personally, so seeing it in a FNAF game that I really like puts a bad taste in my mouth. However, I'm not going to let that discourage me. How does this night play, and are there any redeeming qualities? Throughout the night, all you have to do is wind the music box and put on your mask whenever the animatronic enters your office. If you ever see Foxy in the hallway, flash your light at him. Guys, it's literally just FNAF 2. I really don't have to explain this to you. The characters even look different on this night, and in the extras menu, this version of them is called Withered. It's FNAF 2. That's it. That is until the halfway mark. What the fuck? We were the Mangle. What the fuck? Conveyor belt. Yo! Yo! What the fuck? Yo, the time's all fucked. What the fuck is that thing? Oh, nah. Halfway through the night, your control panel will be forced up. You'll be able to see the conveyor belt and watch as each character makes its way through. Several sticky notes ridiculing you. Every single animatronic sacrifices its body to the Mangle, and it's finally time for the final fight. The Mangle enters the building, and now is the perfect time to talk about how fucking disgusting these character models look, especially Mangle. The level of detail in these characters is insane. Seeing Mangle on the cameras is probably the most uncomfortable thing about this entire game. She's so gross and it's super cool. But I do have to ask the question, why the fuck do they look like this? Is our main character going insane and imagining that they look like monsters more than they do? Or did the manufacturers of these robots actually design the most fucked up creepy robots of all time? Anyways, once the Mangle spawns, the way this night is played changes. Now, for some unknown reason, Mangle has an owl attached to her. Does that make sense? I'm sure there's a reason for it, but I can't for the fuck of me figure out what that might be. Occasionally, this owl head will appear in either of your two vents. When it does, all you have to do is put the mask on until it leaves. Mangle herself has a chance to appear in the hallway. As far as I can tell, she has no sound cues, so you have to constantly check for her yourself. When she's there, hold the flashlight on her until she leaves. Finally, we have the most soul-sucking, nutsack-tearing, butthole-puckering mechanic in the entire goddamn game. The Ghost. The Ghost can appear on any camera. You'll be able to tell because you can see her hand. When you see the Ghost, all you have to do is hold the light on the camera until it disappears. You might be asking yourself, why the fuck is that a problem? That sounds even easier than the owl. Hell, I almost guarantee you will never be able to see the cameras in your entire fucking life. Why? Well, as I'm sure you're aware if you've ever played a FNAF game before, when a character moves from one camera to another, it's very common for the camera to go black for a moment. This is done so that you don't see the characters teleporting out of sight. However, the Mangle moves so goddamn cocksucking fast through the cameras that they will be black for about, I don't know, 90% of the fucking night. Meaning that, very rarely will you be able to check if the Ghost is on a camera. Could we stop? Could we stop? Literally, what the fuck am I supposed to do? She's moving around the camera so fast, I can't even fucking look to hold the light on her. I feel like this is unintentionally difficult, but it's actually so bullshit, it's not even close to fun. This is the main reason why I dislike Night 6 as much as I do. Dying because I couldn't find the Ghost because I can't see the fucking cameras for more than 0.3 seconds every 14 decades is not fun. It ruins the pacing of the game and destroys all immersion I had in the situation. But if you can manage to not get fingered by the Ghost, you'll survive to 6 AM and lure the Ghost into the Barrens. The Ghost grabs Paul Bear, revealing he himself is a costume, not an actual plush bear. Surprise, surprise. This should have been obvious. The Ghost tells Paul Bear she's going to kill us, but we quickly run up behind her while she's distracted and fucking gank her ass. Dead kids! Rah! Rah! The screen cuts to black. We learn 5 years later, Juniors would reopen after some significant rebranding, focusing on, quote, family fun and above all, safety. A line that should be familiar sounding if you've played the official games. Finally, a character named Jeremy is asked when they're free to start the job. Let's pause. This twist is pretty damn cool. We saw an exact replica of the FNAF 2 office on Night 6, and now we learn that Jeremy Fitzgerald is being hired. Of course, knowing the official lore, Jeremy was the night guard in Five Nights at Freddy's 2, and the family fun and above all safety is something the phone guy says in FNAF 2 as well. Which would lead me to believe that the rebranding of Juniors was to Freddy Fazbear's Pizza in the form of the pizzeria we see in Five Nights at Freddy's 2, using the toy animatronics and the layout we find in the basement. But with that final awesome twist, Juniors comes to a close. Overall, I think Juniors is unironically the best Five Nights at Freddy's game I've ever played, even beating out the official games. Sure, I'm not the biggest fan of the final boss night, but the rest of the game easily makes up for that shortcoming. Juniors is 100% at the top of my fan game tier list, and I highly doubt it will be losing that position anytime soon.
Who is your favorite Five Nights at Freddy's game developer? Maybe it's Mixlass for the amazing Tyke & Sons Lumber Co. Maybe it's Scott Cawthon himself for making the series we all love so much today.
My answer should be pretty obvious if you're at all familiar with my channel, and that developer is Garrett McKay, responsible for amazing games I've covered on this channel like Fredbear's Frights and A Bite at Freddy's. He was also a 3D modeler for Pop Goes Evergreen, but he's also responsible for another amazing project, a project I've been asked to cover many times ever since the release of my review of Fredbear's Fright. I'm sure you're all very familiar with Fredbear and Friends Left to Rot, which is the game I will finally be covering in this video. Going into Left to Rot, I had no idea what to expect. I had seen absolutely nothing about the game going into it, which is how I go into most of the games I cover on this channel. All I knew was the game's developer, who I already had a lot of confidence in. So let's waste no time and jump into the long-awaited coverage of Fredbear and Friends Left to Rot. Rather than throwing you into a menu screen like most FNAF games, Left to Rot begins with a cutscene, similar to Garrett's other works. This cutscene appears to be an instruction tape, informing workers how to switch from the old Fredbear and Spring Bonnie animatronics over to the new and improved Freddy and Bonnie. We have to dismantle the old animatronics and replace them, afterwards adding Chica by Freddy's side. This is actually really interesting. Instead of just replacing the animatronics, we sort of reused some of the endoskeleton pieces from the old models, meaning that, technically, Fredbear is still a part of Freddy and Spring Bonnie is still a part of Bonnie. Something interesting to think about. After this cutscene, we're actually thrown into another cutscene. We're in a car on the phone with an unknown person. We're told by this person that we're supposed to enter an unnamed building and head straight into the office. Slowly disabling all of the building's systems, we're told that the animatronics inside act as security, and if they touch us, it's not gonna be fun. I know all of you goons think differently, so don't even start with the comments. We enter the building and the real gameplay can't begin. On this night, we're in the observatory, and our main goal is to get through each camera and disable their audio and their video. That doesn't sound very difficult, Dxtr. Shut the fuck up. You know full well there's gonna be some animatussies trying to hit us from the back. The three characters trying to grab up on us are Fredbear, Spring Bonnie, and the prototype. Fredbear is pretty simple. If you see him standing approximately 6 feet away from you, aka close enough to smell his rancid breath, jump under the desk like they're the trenches in World War I and pray to God that his breath isn't the equivalent to mustard gas. Once he leaves, you can pop back up. Spring Bonnie is much the same, only instead of his breath smelling like all the dead fish on Earth, Spring Bonnie's breath smells like ass. Because you know what they say, you are what you eat, and he's eating a whole lot of ass. Did you know back in middle school when all of the kids were saying what they wanted to be when they grew up? Some kids said firefighter, some kids said police officer. This motherfucker right here said, I wanna be an astronaut. I wanna explore booty. Absolutely foul robot. The prototype is a bit different, however. Just being an endoskeleton, he really doesn't have any meat on the bones, meaning there's nothing for you freaks to grab up on. Usually, my metaphors have to deal with the robots touching us, but after reading some of your feral comments, I get the feeling my metaphor should be the other way around. Anyways, if the endoskeleton is in your office, just flash your light at him and he'll go away. Overall, this room isn't too difficult, but really shows off just how creepy the atmosphere for the rest of the game is going to be. Also, yes, I said room, not night that time, because this entire game takes place in a single night, as we make our way through a giant building trying to find something that is so far unknown to us. Let's waste no time and hop into the next room. Before we can go into the next room, however, we have another minigame / cutscene to go through. In this one, we see Freddy, who is actually talking to us. This, by the way, is just another tutorial tape for employees where they're shown how they can remotely control the animatronics while they're on stage. We move his jaw, and my favorite, make him shake like he's having a seizure. Jumping into the next phone call, we stand outside of a mysterious door. Are your nuts quaking staring at this door? Mine are. We're told that behind that door is a storage room, and that inside there are some items that we need to collect. Entering the room, we grab a few remotes and a larger screen. Not totally sure what these things are. Maybe a camera system? Who knows? Now all we need to do is walk out of this door right here and oh god damn it, of course it doesn't have any power. This is gonna be a survival section, isn't it? Hey, future Dxtr here. He's right. It's a survival section. To prevent this Dxtr from going apeshit feral mode, I'm going to take over this section for him. In this section, we have to charge up the door we need to exit through, while staying safe from Max. Who the fuck is Max, I hear you asking? I have no idea. But he's behind this curtain. Seems to be a puppet type thing, I'm not really sure. As we, slowly as fuck, charge up this door, Max will start making moves, and we have to keep him behind the curtain by flashing our light at him. This room is incredibly easy. Max does not move very fast, and even though the door takes about 2 decades to charge, you won't really ever feel in danger throughout. Going through the dark doorway, we continue. Before entering the next room, we have to interact with yet another tape. This one teaches us how to test arcade machines. We have to play 2 fuck-ass minigames that I hate in order to continue. The first game where you play as Spring Bonnie in space, having to shoot little Bonnies at pizza to defend who the fuck knows what. This game takes so goddamn long to complete. I'm actually getting sick to my stomach even thinking about it. The second game we have to test is an interesting one, to say the least. We play as Sneaky Guy. Who the fuck is Sneaky Guy? I don't know. All you do in this game is run around aimlessly through rooms until the game just shits itself. Thank you, Fredbear and Friends Left to Rot. What a great use of my time. After that, we immediately enter Test Room 1, which is just a child's bedroom. A little weird why that would be a test room, but we're going to pretend like that isn't incredibly alarming. The guy on the phone tells us that he's not entirely sure what's actually in this room for us to collect. But before he can say anything else, the phone call goes to static and cuts out, leaving us alone for the very first time. Oh shit, guys, I just pissed the bed. Editor, can you bring a mop please and clean up the piss mess all over the fucking bed? Thank you so much. I'm sorry. I know this is such a big pissy mess, but I don't know what happened to me. Usually I'm better at this. I mean, look at this mess. It's got to be at least a gallon or 2. Thank you, editor. I apologize for this disgusting inconvenience. You can leave now. Thank you again. Sorry about that, guys. Let's just talk about the room now. In this room, the goal is to pry open this vent, slowly as fuck. While we're trying to open this vent, we're being attacked by 2 animatronics of which I don't know the names of, so for the sake of this section, I will be calling them Freak Bob number 1 and Freak Bob number 2. Freak Bob number 1 attacks from the door to the room that's in front of you when the night begins. He will appear at random in the doorway, making a sound cue to let you know he's there. All you have to do is quickly whip around and flash him. With your light, not your genitals. Fucking weirdo. You also have to make sure that Freak Bob number 1's toy stays wound up. If you don't, Freak Bob number 1 himself is going to get wound up. Sexual style. And it's not going to be very fun for you. Freak Bob number 2 is pretty much a nerfed version of Freak Bob number 1, being at your closet door instead. If you hear him, flash your light at him and he'll piss off. No toy to crank, very simple. The only struggle to this room is actually not falling asleep while you wait for this slow-ass, fuck-ass, dumb-ass, stupid-ass fuck vent to open! Alright, pause. Time for me to cut in. This last Dxtr was supposed to stay calm, but apparently he couldn't do it either. So hi, I'm Dxtr number 3, and I'll be taking over from here. Shoo, now, get out. Thank you. Alright, where were we? Oh yes. Once the vent has been pried open, you're safe to crawl through and move on to the next room. Exiting the vent, we see an exit door. But before we get the opportunity to leave this hellhole, we get jumped by some fuck-ass animatronic who knocks us out. We wake up inside of an unknown room with a tape in front of us. Playing it, we find it's one of the tapes heard in Five Nights at Freddy's 3, teaching us how to climb in and out of Springlock costumes. Oh no, this is about to be bad. After listening to the tape, we go over to a Fredbear costume and open it up. Climbing inside, we slowly lower the suit onto our bodies. Once inside, we play the next tape. As the phone guy tells us not to breathe on the spring locks, we immediately start breathing on the spring locks. This is F student behavior right here, by the way. Of course, we die, and now's the time I should say that this is definitely not our player in this cutscene. I say that because after this death, we enter Test Room 2. Oh boy. Test Room 2. How I hate you. In Test Room 2, the most immediate threat is the toxicity of the room we are in. Freddy, Bonnie, Chica, and Foxy have been literally ripping ass and hotboxing this room for the last 12 years, and without a gas mask, we will soon die because of it. Luckily for us, we have a gas mask, Putting it on decreases our toxicity level, but whenever the mask is off, it will very quickly begin to climb back up. Dexter, that doesn't sound too bad. Shut the hell up. I haven't even started talking about the animatronics in this godforsaken room yet. Let's start with Freddy and Chica, shall we? These two work pretty much exactly the same, with only one small difference. Freddy and Chica will enter your vents in an attempt to get to you. When you see them in your vents via your cameras, you will have to temporarily disable the fans in those vents to gas them out and make them leave. However, when you disable a vent fan, your toxicity will increase dramatically faster than you can handle, so you need to make sure you're listening for the vent sound cue to let you know they left so that you can quickly turn the fans back on. I said there was a difference between Freddy and Chica, and the only difference is that Freddy is goated and you'll be able to see him in the hallway, giving you a better warning as to when he's about to enter your vent. Bonnie is the next annoying character, so let's talk about him. Bonnie will appear behind you in your window. When you see him, he will lean in real close to give you a kiss. Now pause. While you may feel enticed to reciprocate, I would advise against that. Little did you know, Bonnie doesn't know what a toothbrush is. So unless you're the most disgusting human being on the planet, kissing someone like that probably isn't the best idea. When Bonnie leans in, what you should be doing instead is putting your gas mask on, which scares him away for some reason. Maybe it's because he took the hint that you don't want to kiss him. That's my best guess. But now, we need to talk about the behemoth, Foxy. Allow me to keep my composure when I say this.
This is fucking bullshit! Fuck this stupid ass, fuck ass, dumb ass, bitch ass, dunce ass fox! God damn, I'm gonna give my brother an aneurysm with this dick!
Alright, I said it. I've tried to fight the demons throughout this entire video, but I just can't anymore. I guess I'm not allowed to just be calm and do a normal review without freaking out and losing my goddamn mind. This second test room broke me. This second test room is the bane of my existence. I cannot stand it. Foxy will appear in your hallway. When he does, you need to shut off the power to your office, which means no checking cameras, no blocking vents, and my favorite, no turning around to check on Marty! Fuck! Fuck! Why are you doing this to me, game? What did I do to you? Garrett, look at me! Look at me in my fucking eyes right now! What happened to you? What did someone do to you to make you design something so absolutely foul, devious, and soul degrading? I cannot describe how angry I am at this room. You can see my reaction over on my second channel, Dxtr Black. When you have to turn the lights off, you have to do so for such a long time. Enough time to take a nap. Fuck it, right? Why not? And how long do you have to deal with this shit ass cycle for? 6 minutes. 6 soul-sucking fuck-ass minutes. I was so close to ripping out my pubic hair with my teeth while suffering through this horrendous room. 6 minutes doesn't sound like a long time, but trust me, this is the longest 6 minutes I've ever been through, especially when I died at 5 minutes about 100 times. I'm drained, completely drained. I don't know if I can continue writing about this game. I don't know if I can complete it. Not so bad when you listen. You know, maybe if you listen more often, people wouldn't call you butt as fuck. Oh my god, that noise scared the fuck out of me, but I did it. Damn! Half an hour on that bullshit! I did it. God, it is real! Thank God! I thought I'd never escape that bullshit! Oh my god. This is making me want to go outside and appreciate life. Fuck FNAF. Fuck YouTube. I need to be out in nature. No, actually, scratch that. Women are outside, and women are scary. Let's stay inside where it's safe and no woman would ever go. And continue to the next cutscene. The next cutscene has us learn how to clean a fursuit, something Cord Kitty should have taken notes on. Freaky fuck. After cleaning the suit, we're thrown into the final test, which is unironically my favorite section in this entire game. During this final test, we have to send what the game calls the suit into the office. This suit will move around the cameras, and whenever we see him without his eyes glowing, we need to press the return button. After doing this about 5 times, the final test is over. Congrats, you've just beaten— Nah, I'm just fucking with you. Of course there's more than that. On top of the suit, we have a few other threats to deal with. Let's start with the Lil Bonnie. Side note, I know these guys have actual names, but I think Lil Bonnie sounds better, so kick rocks. Lil Bonnie will occasionally pop into your office. When he does, all you have to do is use the jumper cables on your desk to shock his nipples and scare him away. Lil Freddy is probably my favorite character in this entire game, however. He will occasionally appear in your window. You'll notice a piece of paper on the window as well. When you see Lil Freddy, you'll have to move the paper to cover his eyes so he can't see you, confirming that Freddy has no object permanence. Lil Golden Freddy is the last character to talk about. He can jump in front of your cameras, fucking them up. And when you see him doing this, all you have to do is reboot the cameras and it's GG easy. After moving the suit successfully to the office, the power goes out, and it looks like Golden Freddy appears in front of us. We try desperately to use a remote control to shock him, but it doesn't work. He lunges at us, cutting to black. We cut back to see the bathroom camera from 5 Nights at Freddy's 1, and Golden Freddy waving us into the female restroom for some reason. A little bit of a creep freak, if you ask me. Shortly after, he kinda just stares at the camera all weird like, before we're shown we got the tragic ending. Endings? Oh no. So, in my playthrough on Dxtr Black, for some reason I never got the other endings. I have no idea why. I have no idea what's wrong with me. But don't worry, I'll cover them here. Just know that from this point forward, all the footage you will see is from Dice Games. Thank you for actually completing this game, Dice, like I didn't do for some reason. Before I cover all the endings, I need to quickly talk about Insane Mode, found in the Extras menu. It's a much more challenging version of Test Room 2, which, fuck that. No way in hell I'm even thinking about touching that bullshit, and I didn't on my playthrough on Dxtr Black either. Maybe that's the reason I never got the other endings. Anyways, after beating Insane Mode, we're greeted to what looks to be Freak Bob number 2 from Test Room 1 lying on the ground. The guy on the phone apologizes and says that they will soon go after Afton. We're shown a piece of paper that reads the following. Experiment number 3 notes. Experiment number 3 tests the binding effects of the high energy substance variable to surfaces larger than those in experiments 1 and 2. As the surface variable increases in size, the energy output decreases only slightly. The surface tested on for this experiment was the Mouseki version 2 animatronic. It is unknown whether the results were influenced by integrated motor components of the surface. 2 more experiments will be necessary to evaluate for bias. Experiment overall successful. More details in the experiment log. As some people are aware, Garrett McKay's games are connected. In this note is a reference to Mouseki from Fredbear's Fright. It appears that Freak Bob number 2 might actually just be an earlier version of Mouseki. Now, back to ending grinding. Going all the way back to the phone call before the storage room section, if instead of going straight into the storage room like I did, you instead can turn left and you'll find a safe. Inputting the code 321975, the safe will open and you'll be able to take a small remote out. Using this remote, we can go back to the final test room and use that remote to shock the suit as it enters our office, fucking its shit up, making it get its jiggy on, giving us the good ending. We're greeted to a final cutscene where we box up Fredbear and Spring Bonnie for good, and we're told that because of William Afton, the company has to be sold and the building will be locked up forever. Now's the time where I need to talk about Custom Night. Usually I never talk about custom nights in my reviews, but the custom night in this game is actually very important. There are several pre-built custom challenges that give fun rewards like in FNAF 2, but the all 20 mode is the challenge that's really important. So let's go over how everything works. On custom night, we're in an office we've never seen before, with 4 monitors and 2 hallways leading to our office. First, how do we win? Well, on the 4th monitor, you'll see a list of detections. This is just like the mechanics from Pizzeria Simulator, where we have to deactivate everything on the monitor in order for the night to end. There are actually 2 pages of detections, meaning that we have 10 total to deactivate, and goddamn does it take a long time to even deactivate one of them. So cool, easy enough. Now, what about the threats? Let's start with Timothy, or as we've been calling him, Freak Bob number 2. Timothy will appear in the right hallway of your office. When you see him there, you'll have to use your hyper flash to scare him off. Next up is the prototype. He's pretty similar to Freak Bob number 2. He will appear in the left hallway of your office, and instead of using the hyper flash, you'll have to shine your light at him until he decides it's time to goon again and leaves. Next on the chopping block is Roger, aka the Freak Bob number 1 toy. He just kinda chills on your desk. Keep him wound up to stop him from chomping on that delectable tush you've got. The suit is next. He appears on your third monitor, which has 2 cameras. If you ever see him on any of them, you need to press the advance button to make him run away like a little bitch. Next up is Jeffrey, or as we've called him, Lil Freddy. Lil Freddy will appear on your first monitor, which has 4 cameras. If you see him on one, you need to make that camera go to static so he doesn't see you. Remember, he has no object permanence. Barry is up next, aka Lil Bonnie. He'll appear on the second monitor. It'll be kind of hard to see because of how dark it is, but when you do see him, you need to shock his nipples again. That gets his rocks off. And finally, we have Lewis, or of course, better known as Lil Golden Freddy. Lewis can appear on any of your monitors, and when you see him, you need to reboot it as fast as possible, making him probably the most annoying character in all of Custom Night. The combination of all these characters together is brutal. You will barely have time to do the tasks you need to complete this night. I, of course, have not beaten all 20 mode because I value my sanity, but to anyone who has beaten this like Dice Games, congrats because this is nuts. After completing 720 mode, you unlock access to a final minigame. You play as a character in black inside of one of the pizzerias. You turn off the power to the building and get inside of a Fredbear costume and go to the office to, quote, find the intruder. Once in the office, you grab the security guard and drag him away, giving us the getaway ending, with text displayed on screen stating no one will believe him. We also get a little creep shot of a foot that I know you guys are wanting to give a quick lick. Don't even lie. I actually have a small theory that this minigame shows what really happened in the final test room of this game. When the lights went out, whoever was in that suit that we were trying to get to the office gets to us and drags us away. But because we pick up that special remote, we were able to shock him and stop him. But that's just a theory. A gay theory. Thanks for watching. But with that, that's all Fredbear and Friends Left to Rot has to offer. I thought this game was crazy cool. I think I still like A Bite at Freddy's a little bit more, but holy crap, this game is amazing. Despite my fucking hatred for Test Room 2, I can put that aside and appreciate the amount of work that was put into this game. Five Nights at Freddy's games don't scare me. Even the jump scares never typically get me to scream, shout, quiver in my boots, and defecate in my britches. However, the game I'll be covering today did. Not only that, but this game, this masterpiece, is probably one of, if not the coolest Five Nights at Freddy's fan game I've ever played. Today, I'll be covering their Return to Bloody Nights. Released in 2023 on Game Jolt by Kazovsky, it serves as a prequel to the official Five Nights at Freddy's series, taking place before the events of Five Nights at Freddy's 2. So you already know this game is about to be packed to the brim with lore, and after hearing that, I really begin to quiver in fear, because covering lore makes me want to drop cheeks on my desk and quake my entire house. I personally care much more about gameplay. Can't enjoy the story if the game itself is worse than shitting in a public school bathroom. So let's jump right into the Return to Bloody Nights. I'm sure I won't lose my mind, even a little bit. Starting up the game, we're greeted to an opening cutscene, where we can see Spring Bonnie playing a tune and getting his jiggy on. We appear to be inside a Freddy costume, and given when this game is taking place, I can only assume that this is either a Golden Freddy suit or a Fredbear suit. Looking around in the suit, I noticed literally Satan chilling in the darkness. Sup, Satan? And shortly thereafter, we're thrown into the menu. The Return to Bloody Nights has the typical Five Nights formula, with a difficult sixth night at the end. Split up into days of the week, it gives it a bit more character, which also makes sense. When a girl asks you what day it is, you don't say the fourth day, you say Thursday like a normal person. But all you little freak geeks probably respond by instantly jeebing in your pants because a woman has never spoken to you before because you're chronically online. Don't lie. We all are. Nothing to be embarrassed about. Jumping into night 1, we first have to wait for a phone call to play out between Henry and William. Since this takes place before the official games, it can only be assumed that at this point in time, Henry already had his restaurant, and William was currently working on his own. Before every night, we get a phone call just like this. Henry checks up on William's progress with the animatronics. William talks and makes me incredibly uncomfortable. Seriously, the voice actors in this game did an amazing job of playing the parts. Oh, and I can't forget my favorite part, getting to hear Henry tell William that safety comes first about 800 times per phone call.
I want to make sure that our establishments are safe for everyone who comes through our doors. I still want you to take your time with the project. Rushing things could lead to mistakes.
But I do need to move quickly if we're going to open in time.
I know, but please keep safety in mind, above all else.
Honestly, if I was William and I had to hear Henry tell me the same thing a million times, I probably would have killed those kids too. Moving into the office, we get to listen to yet another phone call. Holy shit, I'm gonna tear my pubes out. I know this game is more focused on lore, but holy shit, I downloaded the game to play it. If I wanted a story, I'd get a visual novel. In all honesty though, the in-office phone calls are actually also great. Again, the voice actor did an amazing job playing the part. He tells us about the restaurant, whatever the fuck. Tell me about the robots, bro. That's what I'm interested in. Night 1 introduces Spring Bonnie. I'm sure you could have guessed. This game takes place in Fredbear's family diner. We play as a guy named Scott, which I might add is probably the whitest name of all time. Spring Bonnie does exactly what you think he does. Starts on the show stage, shimmies around the cameras like he just sprayed some cologne in the air, and brings it around town to your right side office door. It's at this point where I should establish how the doors work in this game. You'll notice that there are no lights. However, you do have a flashlight, so you can flash that puppy into the doorways to see what's there. However, you'll notice that your flashlight doesn't illuminate the entire doorway, so you'll have to move your flashlight around to actually see the full picture. It's also because of this that we get my favorite part of this entire game. Oh my fucking god! Holy shit! Oh my god, that was fucking cool as shit! Oh my god, bro. Holy shit, that was awesome. The moment I saw this, I thought to myself, yep, for sure. This game's getting a white video. The fear in my voice in that clip was genuine. I know a lot of creators on this site like to fake and hype up their reactions because it makes good content, but if you watch my second channel, Dxtr Black, you'd know that all of my reactions are real. So not often will you catch me getting scared like that, but hot damn was this cool. As I'm sure you could guess, when you see Spring Bonnie in the doorway geeked out of his mind, you need to close the door and wait for a sound cue letting you know he's left. With only one animatronic, I'm sure you could guess that this night is incredibly easy, so let's move on to night 2. Night 2 introduces Fredbear. He acts the same way as Spring Bonnie, except he attacks the left door rather than the right. Since that's pretty boring, let's talk about the cameras and why I think this game does animatronic movement correctly compared to other games. Something I've noticed in a lot of FNAF games is that characters have a path. No shit, that's how it's always been. But you'll notice in most games that this path is very basic. For example, I move from camera 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 and then arrive at your door. Very basic. This game and a few others do something really cool. Rather than just appearing in one camera and teleporting to another, the characters in the Return to Bloody Nights will instead have multiple phases on each camera, kind of like Foxy from Five Nights at Freddy's 1, wherein, if you're watching the cameras, you will see Spring Bonnie, for example, go from the show stage to standing off of the show stage, and then he'll transfer to another camera, and in most cases, each character has at least 2 phases on each camera that they enter, which really gives a feeling of realism to the game, as it seems like you actually get to see the characters walking around rather than just teleporting from camera to camera like most Five Nights at Freddy's games. Another game that pulls this off really well is A Bite at Freddy's, a FNAF fan game I've covered on this channel, and you can watch my review of it after you finish this one. It's a fantastic video if I do say so myself, which I do. Anyways, on to Wednesday, which introduces 3 new threats, those threats being, hold on a second, 3? 3 new threats in one night? Did I read that right? Hold on, let me check. Oh my god. Yeah, that's right. 3 new animatronics become active on this night. God damn. Talk about going from 1 to 100 in a fraction of a second, good lord. Well, let's start going over them, shall we? Starting with the least infuriating of the three, we have the puppet. An area of your office I have yet to mention is the prize corner, which is directly behind you. Here, you will be able to see prizes. Who would have thought? This is also where you can see a bunch of fun references like Sonic, FNAF, Cuphead, and a bunch more. I had a lot of fun pointing out as many references as I could while playing, which you can see in my full playthrough on my second channel, Dxtr Black. The puppet has a chance to appear at any time throughout the night behind you in the prize corner. It doesn't move through the cameras, so there's no way to predict when it's going to attack. However, thankfully, it does play a sound cue that lets you know it has appeared behind you, telling you to get off that computer call and kiss it on its hot mouth. When you hear this bell jingling sound cue, you have to quickly whip around and find it in one of 3 locations with your flashlight. Once you find it, it'll quickly hide away like a bitch and you're free to continue. The puppet is really never a problem throughout the nights, acting more of an annoying distraction than a real threat. But now, I get the misfortune of talking about the other 2 threats that this night places in my anus. So let's cover the spawn camping dickhead Fredbear 2.0. Fredbear 2.0 doesn't appear on the cameras. Instead, he appears right outside of your right door. That's where he starts. Yeah, he begins the night already outside of your door. And that's the furthest away he'll ever get from you. Isn't that just the worst thing you've ever heard in your life? I think I'd rather be diagnosed with butthole cancer. Fredbear 2.0 has multiple phases before his actual attack. You'll have to constantly flash your light in the left doorway to check his progress, which takes your attention away from a crucial character you need to watch on the cameras, whom I will talk about in a moment. As he gets closer and closer, you'll get to hear him talking right in your fucking ear, which is a pain in the ass because I'm trying to listen for movements and bell jingling at the same time. So I'd really appreciate it if you'd hop off my cock. When Fredbear 2.0 gets to your door, he will crouch down to try to get in. Which, by the way, looks crazy cool. I love animations like this in FNAF games. It adds so much life to them. Something you'll notice about Fredbear 2.0 in comparison to the other animatronics that attack your doors is that he appears to linger at them for much longer than the others. You wouldn't be crazy for thinking that either, because he does. When Fredbear 2.0 crouches down, he won't instantly enter your office like Fredbear and Spring Bonnie do. Instead, he'll wait about 8 seconds before actually attacking you, giving you time to check on the puppet and Mr. Dickhole, who I'll be covering next. That may sound like a nice gesture. Aw, he's giving me time to worry about my other problems. What an emotionally intelligent guy. No, this guy is a dick. Something I should mention is that there is no power system. However, there is generator heat. What causes the generator to go up? That's right, using your doors. No matter how much you think you're going to be able to consistently time out when Fredbear 2.0 is going to attack, I promise you that you'll get it wrong a few times. And because you know that you're going to get it wrong, you'll probably feel inclined to play it safe and close it sooner than you technically need to. And this is where he gets you. Because even if you close the door early, his timer still has to count all the way down before he attacks, leaving you with your generator heat increasing while that dickhead just stands there like a dunce for half a century. On later nights, you'll be getting attacked pretty frequently, so having this guy waste even a few seconds with your door closed can be the cause of a run to end later down the line. Alright, I can't put it off any longer. I need to talk about the most infuriating character in this entire game. Spring Bonnie 2.0. Spring Bonnie 2.0 acts much like the original, slowly creeping his way through your cameras until he can reach your office. But there's something interesting to note about him. While he's on the cameras, you can see that he's covering his face often, almost like he's playing hide and seek. And the reason for that? It's because he literally is playing hide and seek. When his robot AI was being designed, they made a hide and seek function that was meant to be used to play with the kids, but instead it's being used to play with my ass like a bongo drum. That doesn't sound too bad, Dxtr. I think you're overreacting. No. Bullshit. No, I'm not. Unlike Spring Bonnie, Spring Bitch 2.0 doesn't appear in your doorway. Instead, he'll just pile drive in. So the key is to watch the final camera he appears on. He has 3 phases in this long hallway, the final of which has him close up and personal to the camera. Once you see him there, he will run out of frame, and you need to quickly close the right door before he busts in and then busts in you. Wait! Before you type in the comments how I'm bad and that this isn't a hard mechanic at all, ooh, it's basically just Foxy, Dxtr, you little bitch boy. Shut the hell up. That's what I thought at first too. However, there's one tiny little tweak that makes him worse than a hangnail that just keeps peeling your skin back the longer you pull on it. Unlike Foxy, who, when you look at him in the hall, his animation starts playing and then you close the door and the cycle continues. Simple. Nope. Not Spring Bussy 2.0. He's different. When you look at him on the cameras in his final phase, he won't immediately play his animation like Foxy does. Instead, he's kinda like Fredbear 2.0 in a way, where he has a timer for when he'll actually attack, bringing up the same issue as Fredbear 2.0, where you'll probably end up closing the door earlier than you need to and building up your generator heat. Mixing these two characters together is gruesome. Introducing them both at the same time, on top of another character that demands your attention consistently, downright vile. I'd rather stick my willy in the exhaust pipe of a running motorcycle than deal with these two douchebags ever again in my life. There is one final threat I have yet to mention, but because of the strategy I used to beat this game, I actually never encountered them, that threat being the Golden Cupcake. According to the wiki, he only appears on the third night. Amazing! Fuck 3 threats introduced at the same time, why not 4? He has a chance to appear on any camera, just acting as a visual annoyance. To get him to move, just switch to another camera and he'll disappear. I'm guessing because my strategy only had me using one camera throughout the entire night, it never gave him a chance to spawn. I'm not totally sure, and again, the wiki says he's only active on night 3. Why not nights 4, 5, and 6? I don't really know. This character seems like a weird inclusion. Let me know in the comments if you know more about this little guy. Hey there, Future Dxtr here, coming in to inform you with some much needed corrections for something I mentioned earlier. I made a whole big point about introducing Fredbear 2.0 and Spring Bonnie 2.0 at the same time. Apparently I'm retarded. Fredbear 2.0 isn't introduced until Thursday night. I apologize. I don't know how I got that so incredibly wrong. I probably just remembered how ass I thought that duo was together and misremembered them being introduced at the same time. I don't know. Again, I apologize. Let's get back to the goon session. The remainder of the nights are just more difficult variations of each other. No new characters are introduced. Something crazy you'll notice, however, is the incredible spike in difficulty after Wednesday. Who would have thought being bombarded by AIDS can do a real number on you? This is actually the most common criticism I've seen of this game. The difficulty curve isn't a curve, it's a steep cliff that you're at the bottom of. I recognize why people feel this way, but guys, I was able to beat it. You know, the guy that's actually probably the worst FNAF player of all time. If I did it, you can do it. I promise. Oh, something I decided to not talk about was what happens after each night. Every time you complete a night, we're put into a cutscene where Scott, which again is our character, is scanning the animatronics for paranormal activity. I'm not sure what the name of the device he's using is, but this is what he's doing. I know that because I know how to use context clues. Also because the wiki told me that's what he's doing here. Remember those phone calls I talked about at the beginning of the video? If I want to cover the lore, it's important I talk about those phone calls a bit more. I know. Ugh, Dexter's talking about the lore in a game. He's really bad at that. He's only funny when he's talking about the gameplay. I know, trust me. I'm gonna try my best though, because the story in this game is honestly really, really cool, and I want to share it with you all. I don't want to be like some other game reviewers who tell you to just play the game for yourself to learn more. You're watching reviews to get a review. If you wanted to play the game, you'd just do that. You don't need me telling you to go play it. Night 2's phone call reveals that William has gotten a divorce, and apparently some of the workers are concerned that he's drowning himself in work. Henry tells him that safety comes first. Thank you, Henry. I would have never fucking guessed. Wednesday's call, William begins to brag about his new child-friendly animatronics. These animatronics he's talking about are Fredbear 2.0 and Spring Bastard 2.0. William reveals he's been studying child psychology. Uh-oh. In this day and age, there's only one direction this could be going. Just kidding. This isn't Dormitibus. It's not about to get weird. Afton claims his divorce is taking a toll on his mental health, but he's focusing on work to distract himself. Henry opens up about his feelings like a man never should. Some bullshit about how his only child Charlotte means so much to him, blah blah. Who cares, bro? I'm building fucking robots. That's way cooler than your lame-ass kid who can't even wipe her own ass properly. Thursday's phone call reveals that William wants to distance himself from his two sons and focus more on Elizabeth. I also noticed in this phone call that Afton seems a lot more passive-aggressive. Looking back on it now, that probably has something to do with his mental health. But while I was playing, I was rooting for William during these calls because of how sick and tired I was of Henry mentioning safety for the 200th time in a row. Additionally, on Thursday night, we learned that the diner is being shut down due to the disappearance of 6 children. I wonder who could have done that. Friday's phone call gets dark. Henry's daughter fucking died. RIP! Afton doesn't really seem to care. I'm with you there, William. Afton mentions he has to do something, and Henry tries to tell him to not do anything that might have negative consequences. William brushes this off as it seems he's too far gone. I'm assuming that these things that need to be done are the killing of the 6 kids. It's then around this time that William stuffs one of the kids, Cassidy McKay, into the Fredbear 2.0 suit and leaves her to rot inside Fredbear's family diner. Isn't it crazy how fucked up FNAF games are? I often forget how disturbing the actual story is when I'm making videos about these games. After the completion of Night 4, Scott scans Fredbear 2.0, and unlike the other characters scanned previously, the machine we have starts to go nuts when scanning Fredbear 2.0, likely because of the body of Cassidy inside. After the completion of Night 5, we get a monologue from William, explaining how he killed the kids and framed Henry.
It has been many years since the incident that changed everything. I have done unforgivable things since then. The missing children. It was all my doing.
We get the reveal of Circus Baby and hear about Elizabeth getting ganked by her. After the completion of Saturday, we get a cutscene of who I can only assume is Elizabeth, talking about needing to guide the other victims. I'm assuming Elizabeth because of how Baby guides throughout Sister Location, although I could be wrong on who this is. Finally, if you complete this game's max mode, you get one final cutscene, displaying William dying in the Spring Bonnie 2.0 suit, which is in 2D rather than 3D like the rest of the game for some unknown reason. And with that, that's all the Return to Bloody Nights has to offer as far as I'm aware. Overall, I really liked this game, but I can understand why a lot of people don't. Sure, it looks really pretty and the story is amazing, having us play as the phone guy from FNAF 1 and 2, but I think this game focuses too much on story and not enough on gameplay. Sure, the Game Jolt page does say it's primarily about the story, but I can still understand why people dislike the gameplay loop for being too repetitive and difficult, even though that's how most FNAF games end up panning out. I'm pretty sure the community liked Post Shift 2 more, which that game is just brutally difficult and confusing for the sake of being brutally difficult and confusing. So I guess that tells you where the community really is. One of my favorite parts about making videos on this channel is picking out the games. I'll spend days playing random FNAF games, and most of them don't really catch my attention like some do. Some videos I've made on this channel were because of pure nostalgia, while others were made because I played something that I found amazing, and today is no different. The game I will be talking about today is called A Bite at Freddy's. I began playing this game like I would any other, and if I'm being totally honest, this might be my new favorite FNAF game I've ever played. I feel this game blows even Joy of Creation story mode out of the water. My god, it's so good. As much as I want to dive into this game right now, I have a quick announcement to talk about first. If you don't care about it and just want to get to the review, you can skip to the time you see on screen here. Recently, YouTube has started age restricting my videos because of my vulgar language. I think that's stupid, but whatever. So you'll notice that in this video and all future videos, all cuss words and other inappropriate words will be censored. This is not something I'm happy about. I don't like that I have to do this in order for videos to be pushed out, but it's what I have to do. So to compensate, I've made the decision to start a Patreon. Again, another thing I'm not very happy with, but it's what I'm doing. By joining the Patreon, depending on the tier you may choose, you'll get access to my content early, with no ads, and uncensored. And if you choose the highest tier, Dxtr Gold, you'll get your name mentioned at the end of videos. Blah blah blah, whatever Patreon stuff. There is absolutely absolutely no pressure whatsoever to join the Patreon. I personally don't care if it sits on 0 patrons until the end of time. This is just being made in case anybody wants to listen to these stupid videos uncensored and support me on the side as well. Again, no pressure at all. Don't worry about it. The link is in the description. With that being out of the way, let's get to the video. A Bite at Freddy's begins with a cutscene reminiscent of Five Nights at Freddy's 2, with us in the perspective of Freddy. We look around as 2 people talk about the new animatronics. We can look side to side and see Chica and Bonnie. And this is where I already want to pause and say how f***ing cool these characters look. This game went totally against what every other FNAF game does when it comes to designs. Rather than having the characters just look creepy and dingy in some stanky pizzeria, these characters are based off of Westernism, with each character having a big goofy cowboy hat. I love the change of pace. I also really like how the characters have really long faces. I think it's super unique in comparison to what a lot of other FNAF games create. But enough gawking, let's get into the gameplay. On night 1, which is really called Course 1, which I'm just realizing as I'm typing this, I should probably explain, so I'll quickly do that. Rather than having multiple nights, A Bite at Freddy's just has multiple courses that I could only assume means a meal course, since in this game, instead of having to survive until a certain time, you have to survive long enough to see 3 meals served. Let me explain a bit more, since I know that still doesn't make any sense. Unlike most FNAF games where you're totally alone, in A Bite at Freddy's, your manager is also working in the building with you. His job is to make all of the food, and your job is to confirm its delivery. You might be asking, what the f does delivery mean? And I'll explain it to you, even though you could just open a dictionary. Throughout the course of each course, odd sentence, but whatever, your manager will get a meal ready. Each meal has 3 stages they go through. Preparing, where the meal is being prepared in the kitchen, if you couldn't have guessed. Sending, where the meal is put on a conveyor belt and transported to different locations in the building. And delivered, where the meal has made it to a designated location and awaits confirmation. The next meal will not start being prepared until the last meal has been confirmed. There are 3 meals that need to be confirmed each night. The first meal will be delivered to Party Room A, the second to Party Room B, and the third straight to your office where you can collect it and eat it like a little piglet. To confirm an order, you have to go to the location where it was delivered, whether that be the camera or your office, and just click confirm. Then the next meal will begin to be prepared. Once you confirm the order in your office, you will complete the course. Course 1 introduces 2 characters, Talk Show Bonnie and Talk Show Chica. Talk Show Bonnie will move around the restaurant and will take one of 2 paths. Path A, he will make his way to the entrance of our office. Once he enters, you will be able to see him in one of 3 locations in your office. You'll have to shut off the lights in your office until you see him leave, where you'll then be free to turn your lights back on. I think this mechanic alone is pretty boring, but it's made much more interesting because Bonnie will attempt to hide from you in different locations. It's never hard to spot him, but if you're ever super focused on something else, which you definitely will be, it can be pretty easy to miss him. It's incredibly simple, but just makes the game that much more interesting. Path B that Bonnie can take leads him to the kitchen, which brings up a small point I want to mention. If you look at the kitchen camera, you'll actually be able to see your manager making the food, or you'll actually only be able to see his big goofy cowboy hat. I think it's pretty silly, and I also think it's a lot sillier that when Bonnie is in the kitchen, he chooses to completely ignore your manager. I guess the taste of my asshole is just so much more desirable. And of course, our manager pays no mind to the fact a murderous robot with no legs is right behind him, which actually brings up another point I have with these characters. Similar to Five Nights at Chuck E. Cheese, the characters don't have any legs. Since they're meant to always be behind something, designing legs would never make any sense from a design standpoint. But because these animatronics have no legs, they just drag themselves around, which, even if it's technically not as threatening as a 7-foot-tall, totally mobile robot is, it's totally much more creepy. Anyways, Bonnie will enter the kitchen camera and attempt to crawl onto the conveyor belt. On each camera where a conveyor belt is present, you'll have access to a closed door button. When pressed, if you're terrible at context clues, I'll piece this together for you, the door to the conveyor belt will obviously close. This poses a problem with meals not being able to be sent. But I never once had a problem with that, so I don't care. Once you close the door, within 3 seconds, Bonnie will leave the kitchen camera and you'll be free to reopen the door. You might ask yourself, why would I not keep the doors closed the whole course and only open them to let meals through? Well, I'm glad you asked, because I really needed a segue into explaining another crucial mechanic: power. A bite at Freddy's does power much differently than other FNAF games do. In this case, you want your power low all the time. Performing tasks will cause the power to increase. These include closing conveyor doors, stopping the conveyor, which I'll explain more in a second, and turning off the lights for Bonnie, which, by the way, doesn't make sense. Why would turning the lights off cause power to be used? I don't know. Don't ask. And a few other things that wouldn't make sense if I brought them up right now. If your power ever reaches 100%, it will overheat, and you'll have to wait for it to slowly decrease back down to 0% before you can use any of the devices that cause it to increase. So basically, if your generator hits 100%, you lose, because there's a very small chance where that happens and you still beat the course. Anyways, getting back to Bonnie. Let's say you don't close the conveyor door and Bonnie hops on the conveyor. What happens then? Well, in that case, Bonnie will ride the conveyor all the way up to your office. There will be a noticeable sound cue when he does, or any other animatronic is doing this. When you hear them approaching, you'll turn to the conveyor and pull the stop conveyor lever. This will, as the name suggests, stop the conveyor and temporarily shine a light down it, where you'll be able to see the lovely death robot staring back at you. Just like the doors, after about 3 seconds he'll leave and you can let go of the lever. So this brings up an interesting balancing idea. Let's say your power is pretty high and you see that Bonnie is about to jump on the conveyor. You're scared that if you use the door, your power will go up to 100%, and you obviously don't want that to happen. You actually have some options here. You can either risk it and close the door anyways, or you can choose to allow Bonnie to get on the conveyor and stop him at your office later when your power has gone down to a more comfortable level. Considering that, once they hop on the conveyor, it takes quite a bit of time before they reach your office. When no power users are being used, the power slowly decreases. That's something important I probably should have mentioned earlier. But another important thing to note about stopping them in your office is that stopping the conveyor makes your power increase significantly faster than if you were to have just closed the door. So it's really something you'll need to learn to feel out while you're playing in order to make the smartest choice. Now, let's talk about the other character this course adds, Talk Show Chica. Chica works somewhat similarly to Bonnie, where she'll wander around the building and eventually choose one of two paths. On path A, Chica will head to party room B and attempt to hop on the conveyor like Bonnie does on the kitchen camera. Just like Bonnie, you may close the conveyor door, and then in around 3 seconds, Chica will leave and you can open it again. Path B, on the other hand, is very interesting and is one of my favorite mechanics in this game just because of how goofy it is. Like Bonnie, Chica's other path will have her head straight to your office. However, where Bonnie will hide, Chica will sit behind your desk. Along with a notable sound cue you will hear, you will also be able to see her big goofy cowboy hat slowly rising up from behind your desk. When you see her there, you need to, no joke, grab a toy gun from off your desk like this is Moozy, aim for between Chica's eyes, and fire a fake projectile at her before she fires her fake projectile at you. If you win the standoff, Chica will exit your office. This has to be one of the most ridiculous things I've ever seen in a FNAF game, ever. I could talk all day about how much sense this doesn't make, but this entire game is super silly, so I'm not taking it super seriously here. I love this mechanic. I think it's unique and goofy. Should I call it goofy one more time? Have I put that in the script enough? Whatever. Let's move on. The second course of the game activates Talk Show Freddy, and with him comes a new camera and a new mechanic. This was super interesting to me. I've never before seen a FNAF game like this add a whole new camera to a night. This caught me off guard and I was very pleasantly surprised. Freddy, unsurprisingly, works similar to Bonnie and Chica. Again, he will wander around the building and choose one of two paths. I'm going to give you a quick spoiler alert. This pick-a-path system is the same for every character in the game, so I'm going to not bring it up for the remaining of the characters. Freddy's first possible path has him go to Party Room A and attempt to climb onto the conveyor. Just close the conveyor door, yada yada yada, you'll be fine. His other path, however, has him go to the new camera, which is Vent Camera. When you click on the vent camera, a few other lines will appear on the map, showing you which cameras have access to the vent, those being both of the party rooms and the hallway. I've actually never really talked about the hallway, but it will become more important later, so let me just quickly explain some small things about it now. The hallway in A Bite at Freddy's acts as a type of hub where you will be able to commonly see most of the animatronics. Multiple of the characters have a few different states on this camera, which can help you understand and be able to predict what their next moves will be. For example, Chica has a chance to appear on the hallway camera very far away. Looking at the layout of the building and where the camera is placed, you'll be able to tell that she is directly outside of your office door. So, if you can make time to catch a peek at that hallway cam, you'll be able to start a mental timer in your head for how long it will be until Chica enters your office. And because of this, you also know that she won't be attempting to hop on the conveyor in Party Room B. Anyways, back to Freddy and the vent. His second path also leads him to Party Room A, where instead of getting on the conveyor, you will see him climbing into the vent. After this happens, you will be able to hear a notable vent sound cue, alerting you to the fact he's up there and hotboxing your vent. When you hear Freddy in your vent, you must go to the vent camera and turn on the vent fan. This will cause a fan to drop down and block Freddy's path. He will then be forced to turn around, and after 3 seconds when he leaves, you can safely turn the vent fan back off. Turning on this fan works the same as a conveyor door, so it also increases your power. There is something really cool and really quirky and also a little bit skibbity about Freddy and this vent, however. In this vent, Freddy has 3 notable states. I'm not exactly sure how the game decides which state Freddy will be in, but he has a state far from the camera, close to the camera, and the final, very important state where he's very close to the camera and looking down into your office at you. When Freddy is in this peeping Tom state, if you activate the vent fan, it will actually chop Freddy's f***ing head off and it will fall into your f***ing office. What does this do, you ask? Well, when I was playing, I assumed it was just a funny little gag. The only thing I noticed was that without his head, Freddy was a little harder to spot on the cameras since the characters' heads are the most noticeable part of their bodies. What I didn't notice, however, and only found out while doing some extra research for this video, was the fact that when Freddy's head is off, his aggression increases dramatically. So much so that he will move from his start location to the party room and to the vent in a matter of seconds. And when you get rid of him, you will only have a few seconds until he's back. You know, with how many times I've lost to Headless Freddy, you'd think I'd have picked up on this, but I never did. I guess I'm just a fucking moron. Course 3 adds the most frustrating character in this whole game, Foxy. Foxy will start on a different camera from the other animatronics talked about so far. This is pretty standard when it comes to Foxy. However, for some unknown reason, instead of being Western-based like the rest of the characters, for some reason, Foxy is a scientist. What? Why? I fail to understand the thought process here. But whatever, that's not really important. Let's just go over what this goober does. Foxy's first path leads him to the kitchen just like Bonnie, where he will attempt to hop on the conveyor. What the f ever, you guys get it and don't care. Why is he frustrating is all you want to know. Foxy's second path leads us to the backroom camera, a camera that, at this point, has served no real purpose. In this camera, Foxy will have 3 states, each one bringing him closer and closer to some hanging wires, with the third state having him about to bite the shit out of them and kill himself. When Foxy is in this final state, you must press a button on that camera that will reboot the cameras. This also acts as a shock and will stop Foxy and move him back to the hall or main room. As far as I noticed, restarting the camera doesn't cause your power to increase, but it does make the cameras unusable for a small period of time. If you choose to not stop Foxy, which I wouldn't recommend, it's borderline game over. While you don't lose straight away, your camera's power will start to run on your office's generator, and as a side effect of that, every time you open your cameras to use them, it will increase your power, something it hadn't been doing prior. So while you don't necessarily lose when Foxy does this, with how much checking the cameras is necessary to beat any of the courses, you're basically f***ed. But after beating this course, you're actually done. Unlike typical FNAF games where you have 5 nights, A Bite at Freddy's only has 3. I definitely think this is an interesting approach, and also certainly helps with the game not feeling too repetitive, which, by the way, this game is great at making itself feel fresh all the time, but I'll get to that more later. After successfully fulfilling all 3 of these courses, we sit down with our manager and have a nice meal. Only thing that's a little off is we can see a twisted, malformed, deformed, crippled version of Freddy crawling near the table. That's when we're booted back to the menu and we see we have the option to do one final course. The final course acts as this game's 6th night, and it adds a brand new character, Threadbare. Lore-wise, Threadbare was an old Freddy robot they used to use, switching him out for a new model after a kid bit his face off in 1987. Are you kidding me? The bite of 87 in this game was committed by a child on an animatronic. That's hilarious. This game is so non-serious. I love it so much. Anyways, what does Threadbare do? Well, as I'm sure you could expect, he acts similarly to Freddy. His first path has him go to Party Room B and try to hop on the conveyor, and his second path has him enter the vent through the hallway. The only difference you'll notice from Threadbare and the rest of the characters is that Threadbare actually has a third path he can take, that being going down to the back room where Foxy can go and immediately making you have to restart the cameras. He's not forgiving like Foxy is. Foxy has 3 stages, giving you ample warning to prepare yourself. When Threadbare enters your back room and reams you in the asshole while pulling your hair from behind, you need to immediately drop what you're doing and deal with his bullshit. But after beating this course, the game is over. Psych, fucking idiot, we still got custom courses to talk about. You might be thinking, why are you even talking about this? Custom nights are boring as f, and usually I would agree with you. But this game does something super awesome, and I really need to talk about it, both to pad for runtime and because it's just sick. Similar to Five Nights at Freddy's 2 Custom Night, there are multiple pre-built custom modes to play through, but unlike FNAF 2, each mode in A Bite at Freddy's adds a unique challenge on top of the custom AI. Let's start with just beating the custom course on a totally random AI number, not all 20, not all 0, and not using a pre-built challenge. Upon beating it, you will be rewarded a yellow slip, which is pretty standard in FNAF games. It starts to get interesting when you beat the custom course with every character's AI set to 0, in which case you will be given a roll of toilet paper. This is incredibly stupid, but I love it. It's so goofy that this was even thought of. It's the small things that matter in games sometimes, and this proves that point. Now, let's get to the challenges, starting with Basket Hunt. Basket Hunt has Freddy, Bonnie, and Threadbare active. Bonnie and Freddy having an AI value of 10, and Threadbare having an AI value of 5. The extra challenge of this course is that, after a meal has been prepped, the basket it's in will be sent to a totally random room. You'll have to search through the cameras like a Where's Waldo in order to find each basket that comes through. Not only is this a super cool addition that the creator 100% didn't need to add, our manager can also be seen with a bag over his head. Since he claimed we were so good at working, he could do it without looking. Because of this, it's probably why the meals get sent to the wrong location, because he can't see where he's going. And on top of that, after beating the course, the final meal that gets sent to your office has a boot instead of food, because again, the f***er can't see anything. I think this is such a cool little extra cherry on top. The level of detail is so great, and again, wasn't even necessary. I love everything about this game. I actually don't have any complaints up until this point. The next challenge is Haunted Roulette, arguably the weakest of the challenges. In this mode, the characters active are Freddy and Chica with an AI value of 10, and Bonnie and Foxy with an AI value of 5. In this challenge, you get a unique item called the Shocker. Throughout the night, key tools you use may become haunted, those tools being your toy gun, light button, vent fan, and conveyor lever. Throughout the course, while you're being attacked, you'll have to keep a close eye on these tools and use your shocker on them if you notice they're haunted. If you try to use a tool while it's haunted, the actual tool will jump scare you, which is just fucking, say it with me, goofy. On top of that, beating the night rewards you with a haunted meal basket that, when grabbing, will also jump scare you. What a treat. Coming in the opposite of hot, we have the next challenge called Cold Kitchen. This challenge consists of Freddy and Bonnie with an AI value of 10, and Chica and Threadbare with an AI value of 5. In this challenge, the heater in the restaurant broke, and to compensate, our manager is wearing earmuffs, which you can see on the kitchen camera. How cute. But this course's challenge is directly affected by the cold. Not only is it f***ing snowing in the building, Jesus Christ, but occasionally it'll get so cold that you won't be able to do shit. In order to stop this from happening, you have to occasionally go to the back room camera and reboot the cameras. This again releases an electric shock, which I guess heats up the building. Doesn't make much sense, but f*** you, it's what we're working with. Upon beating this course, you'll be given a nice little snowman. The next challenge, called Out of Service, contains Freddy and Foxy with an AI value of 5, and Chica and Bonnie with an AI value of 10. The special, super cool, kooky, and funny twist being the conveyor doors don't fucking work. If you recall earlier, I said you're able to allow animatronics through the conveyor and stop them at your office later, and doing this gives you a good opportunity to think and balance your power. Guess what, lips? That can't happen here. If an animatronic gets onto your conveyor, you're f***ed, because on top of the doors not working, the lever in your office doesn't work either, so you won't be able to stop a god thing. This mode led me to develop the strategy of only checking the kitchen cam, party room cams, vent cam, and back room cam, since the rest aren't very important. Eventually, I started glancing at the hallway cam just to see where Chica was and if Threadbro was going to be climbing into the vent soon, but I didn't start doing that until a later night I'll talk about in a second. Anyways, beating Out of Service gets you finger puppets of Freddy and Bonnie. What about Chica and Foxy finger puppets? I hear you bitching about. Shut the f*** up. I'll get there in a second. The next challenge is Lunch Rush, which has all 5 animatronics at an AI value of 10. The extra challenge of this night is that you have to confirm 7 orders when every other night you've only had to confirm 3. And with every animatronic at 10, this is a course where your nerves really start to get tested. And this is also the course where I started checking the hallway camera. After beating this course, you get a Bonnie clock. Why is it Bonnie? I don't know. Because rabbits are fast? I don't know. Get off my ass, man. I'm trying my best here. The final built-in challenge is called Full Course, which has all characters at an AI value of 20. This is just as you'd expect it to be, but something important to note, A Bite at Freddy's has characters activate in an order. Even with their AI values cranked up as high as they are, on Full Course, each character still won't begin moving all at the same time. Don't get me wrong, this challenge is still incredibly difficult, it just isn't incredibly difficult right out of the gate. Beating this challenge gives you the Foxy and Chica finger puppets you were bitching about earlier. By the way, I still have yet to beat Full Course. I know that I can, I just haven't had time to pour the attempts in needed to do so. Now, what if I told you there was a challenge even harder than Full Course? Harder than all 520 mode? Would you believe me? Well, you should, because I'm not just bringing this up for no f***ing reason. If, while in the custom course menu, you manually set all the characters' AI values to 20 and then start the night, you will enter max mode. It's very similar to Full Course, but with one major difference. Every character activates right at the start of the night. You might think that's not a big change, but I promise you it's noticeable. You may not notice right away, but as the game goes on, your power will slowly start to creep out of control. It's insane what making the characters start at different times can do in terms of balancing. It's crazy how much more difficult it is when played this way. Even though the characters are just as aggressive, with them starting at the same time, you'd think that they were f***ing at 21. But if you somehow manage to beat this challenge, you'll be awarded with a Fredbear finger puppet, which confused me when I read about it, because as we know, a Fredbear doesn't actually exist in this game. So who is this? My only possible guess is that Fredbear is just Threadbear before he got his face all eaten up on, but I guess I'm not totally sure. Before I wrap this video up, there's one more point I want to mention. I guess A Bite at Freddy's is actually in a series of games. I didn't know this until doing some research while writing this script. The creator of this game has made some other ones that supposedly tie into A Bite at Freddy's. If you want to see me do more digging into those other games and talk about them, please let me know in the comments. But that's all A Bite at Freddy's has to offer. This game is so fun and goofy, it can definitely be challenging, but never did I feel like the game was unbalanced or unfun. As you all know, I'm absolutely terrible at FNAF games, but most modes in this game, aside from the all 20 modes, actually didn't give me that much trouble. Maybe that means it's just too easy, but I don't feel like challenge is all that defines a FNAF game. This game has so much character and thought put into it, I don't have the words to fully express my appreciation for this game, so I hope that this video did a better job at that. In the last video, I asked you all what you thought about my FNAF fan game, The Whisper Boys. My favorite comment is this one by ElectroTZF. They said that they thought the concept was unique, but there were definitely some flaws. I appreciate the realism you gave me here. I agree the game 100% has some pretty glaring flaws, and you even acknowledge a lot of that had to do with time crunch. I appreciate it, and I appreciate every other other nice comment I got about the game. Thank you. The question of this video is, what is the funniest moment you've ever had out of any FNAF game? One last thing before I go. Again, if you're interested in hearing this video and all future videos on this channel uncensored, consider looking at the Patreon, link in the description. No pressure, of course. It's really not a big deal to me, so it shouldn't feel like a big deal to you either. It's just purely if you want to help out and want to hear me cuss, because, I don't know, you're a little rebel. With the question of the video being asked, I've been Dexter, and I'll see you all in the next video. See ya!